Happy Wednesday, everybody. It's a hump day on the Sean O'Connell Show. Glad to have you with us. We're going to try and have a little bit of fun today. Scott Mitchell is going to swing by. We'll go behind the glass with our good friend Julie Stewart-Binks has other duties she's got to attend to today. But instead of just leaving us hanging, she said, hey, would you want to talk to Pierre Maguire? I was like, yes, I want to talk to Pierre Maguire. Okay.
And that's why she's our behind the glass insider, because she'll never leave us hanging.
Won't leave us hanging.
And she's awesome when she does her interviews every week. I've really enjoyed Julie, but obviously very excited to have Pierre on today too.
That's the voice of James Peterson, who's producing the show today. We're going to have Brennan Smith and Derek Parra. Yes, that Derek Parra from the Utah Olympic Legacy Foundation. They're going to be coming in studio. And then hour number 3, the Zachariah Hour on Wednesdays. So we'll have my guy on talking about all things sports. Should be a fun one. I'm going to give you some Kyle Whittingham sound from practice yesterday. We're going to talk about in the bye week, right? You're not super yet dialed in on the matchup. At least we are not. The team gets an extra week to prepare for BYU. Thank goodness.
Yeah,
I think that's a good
I
thing.
think they need it, OC. I think they might need it.
Money Parks out for the season. That was revealed to us yesterday. That is unfortunate. Obviously, the injury bug keeps on biting the University of Utah, and we addressed this last week, I think, with the poll question. I don't know what you do when your team is so unlucky with injuries, and I don't know if it's just a perception thing where if you're winning all these games, if Utah was right now like a 7-1 team, if we'd be like, oh, man, the injuries are just like outrageous for Utah again this year. Maybe you just be like, well, yeah, it's football, man. That's what happens. But I brought up the point when we talked about it the first time. I don't think that Utah's 4 captains, now you can say 5 captains because Cam Rising with the season ender allowed for Mekhi Bernard to step in and be elected as a captain sort of like in his stead, right? I don't think that there's been a game where you've had your captains all available at the same time. That's a weird thing.
Yeah, when you brought that up last week, OC, I was stunned to hear that. Even though I kind of already knew that, it didn't register until you brought that up that, yeah, they have not had all of their captains playing at the same time.
And the reason I brought it up, and I bring it up again, is because it's illustrative of not just injuries, but the significance of those injuries. Because your team captains are your most important players for several different reasons. Often they're the most talented. Often they're the most capable of making plays for you on the offensive or defensive sides of the ball. But they're also your leaders. They're also the tone setters. They're also the guys that make sure you have good practices. They're the guys that make sure that everyone else is preparing the right way, that even when you're on the road or you're in the team hotel before the night before a home game, that everyone's doing what they're supposed to be doing, that the PlayStations and the phones and everything are put away at the right time, and that you're getting to sleep and whatnot. It's like, I don't know. It's been a weird year again for the University of Utah, and I don't know how you address that, but sad to see Money Parks go out. At least if there's a silver lining, if there's a small consolation, when a guy gets hurt in game play, it's less problematic or less confusing than when you hear about a guy getting hurt in practice. Because when we can see how it happened, we at least know that it was like in the effort of winning a football game and it was live action, and it's just those are the breaks. When you hear about guys getting injured in practice, you're just like, what is happening in practice? Are they going too soft? Are they going too hard? Is it not clear whether it's a thud period or it's a full speed period? Is some scout team guy rolling up on somebody's knee? Like, at least when it's live game action, as unfortunate as it still is, you're like, okay, well, it happens.
Or the conspiracy theorists are like, was it actually in practice? No. You know, we're not going to entertain that much of that, but that happens too when it's not right in front of all of us.
Well, yeah, I mean, that has been part of the issue with the whole Cam Rising situation is, yes, we saw his catastrophic knee injury. We didn't see any of the things that might have caused setbacks for him or for Brant Keithy for that matter, right?
Yeah, he had more setbacks
exactly
from what we heard. Like the guy was out even longer than he was supposed to be. But I'm watching the comeback on Netflix, the 2004 Red Sox comeback documentary, and that reminds me of Nomar Garciaparra starts that season. Nomar starts with the Achilles injury from spring training, and they address how in the documentary that it's like no one really saw it happen. He says he stepped wrong or a ball rolled up on him and boom, Achilles injury, but we kind of just had to take his word for it. So you have that kind of stuff when you don't see it take place.
Is it like one of those, do people question Nomar in that situation? Like when, who was it? Was it Carlos Boozer who allegedly tripped over a bag?
Yeah. It's
like you punched a wall.
See,
you punched the wall. That's how you actually hurt yourself. And now your story is you tripped over a bag.
Although my wife had a freak broken foot from tripping over a bag in our house one time. So things happen, man. It's funny. It's funny. When she told me about it, because I was at work. She calls me while I'm at work, and I wasn't able to answer, so I had to call her back. And she's like, I hurt myself, and I'm like, are you okay? And then we find out later we don't go to the doctor for a while. We think it's just a broken toe, and it's like, okay, we'll just you can't really do much about that. We'll just wait for it to heal. And then it just wouldn't heal. We find out she freaking broke her foot. It wasn't just a toe, just from tripping on her purse at home. It was anyway.
Because I'm sure that was your fault.
I must have left it there.
Yeah, you shouldn't have done that.
That's my bad. But anyway.
A guy grew up with dislocated his arm, dislocated his shoulder by sneezing. He was holding on to a door handle. And you know how your body contorts when you sneeze?
It dislocated his arm.
It just popped his arm out.
Oh, my gosh. Sammy Sosa had the back spasms from violent sneezing.
There's a lot of freak ways to hurt yourself. It seems like the injury bug has continued to bite Utah. Money Parks out for the season. That was part of what Kyle Whittingham revealed to us in his post-practice sound. I'm going to play this for you right now, and I want all of you to listen and just there's tone, there's tenor, there's what Kyle Whittingham usually looks and sounds like, and then there's this. Go ahead.
So you've had a weekend to think about the quarterback stuff. Where's your head at right now?
Yeah, we're going to evaluate this week, and there's two guys in the running, obviously, Brandon Rose and Isaac Wilson, and they're taking equal reps this week, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Would your decision have changed if maybe those field goals went in with Isaac, or was there still kind of?
That's tough to say. I don't know if those field goals went in, would Houston have done something different? Sure. I mean, it's impossible to go back and try to piece all that together. But no, we would not. Just as the circumstances were, we would not have done anything different.
Do you feel injury played a role in Isaac's kind of decline in play?
He's been pretty banged up this year, but he's a tough kid, wants to be out there, and so if you're out there, you got to perform.
How about Money? How's he doing?
Money's gone for the season. Yeah, it's a season-ending injury, so feel bad for Money. He's been with us for a lot of years and done a lot of good things, but he is out for the rest of the year.
Have you been able to pinpoint what has been going on with the offensive line struggles, or is it going to be?
Well, a lot of the time we're holding the ball too long with the quarterback, so that's part of it. When you look at, there's some metrics. Pro Football Focus say we have the most efficient O-line in the conference. So, I don't know how you measure it all exactly, but I know that we're getting some really good play out of some guys, particularly those tackles, Caleb and Spencer in particular. And we just got to keep coaching, keep working. But the offensive line has been a little bit up and down, but mostly up this year.
Mackay said after the game that he knows what the struggles are, but he didn't want to say what it was. Have you been able to pinpoint kind of what your guys' root of the struggles have been?
Well, in this past game, we didn't run the ball well enough. We didn't defend the run well enough. We lost the turnover margin, again, which has been a theme for this year. Left some points out there by missing a couple field goals. So it was a combination of 4 or 5 things that we didn't do as well as we could have.
With the bye week, how does that help the J team and the plan with him with the offense?
Well, it gives him a little bit of time to prepare. Last week was such a crunch that there was not a lot of opportunity to tweak things or put much of his stamp on it. But with the bye week, you have a little more opportunity to do that. So that's a positive in that respect.
If you guys got opportunities that haven't gotten much run this season, what did like Jalen Glover and other guys like that, what did you make of their performance?
Jalen played very well. He made the most of his carries, didn't get a ton of carries, but the carries that he did get he maximized, and he had a really good practice today as well.
Looking ahead to your next opponent, how does it kind of change the dynamic having that game in league play again?
It doesn't. I mean, it's another game, and whether we're in the same league or not, all it does is have implications in the conference standings. Now we know we don't have a shot at the, obviously at the conference championship, but otherwise you approach it the same way.
You're at a point now with 4 games left in the season. Are there any players that maybe haven't played that you could still redshirt in these last 4 games?
Yeah, we're looking at that. There's probably half a dozen of those guys that are in that situation. But we're monitoring and trying to keep them under that not under the 4, but under the 5-game threshold.
Kyle, would a win in 2 weeks over BYU change the trajectory of your season or of your confidence in your team?
Say that again?
Would a win over BYU in 2 weeks change the trajectory of the season or the confidence of your team?
Oh, it would be a big help. Yeah, obviously. I mean, it's we're in desperate need of a win. There's no doubt about that. We've had four in a row now, and I think the average margin's about a touchdown in every game. And so it's it's not like we're not competing. Our guys are playing hard. They're practicing well. Today was one of our best practices. There's just things that we've got to get better at, and particularly on the offensive side of the ball.
Where's the process at with Cam and potentially him coming back for an 8th year?
That's totally in Cam's court. The ball's in his court, and he is looking at a surgery next week, most likely. And so he's got time to think about that and decide what he wants to do. And you'd have to ask him to, if he wants to shed any light on that. Okay, guys. Thank you.
I'll say Kyle Whittingham from post-practice. That's what he sounded like. Limited time to ask the questions that the media wanted to ask. That is the case with media availability right now in most places, certainly at the University of Utah. A subdued Kyle Whittingham in a lot of ways. After these losses, he's been a little bit fiery, understandably. I think there's obvious frustration. There's some fatigue going on for him, for the coaching staff, for the players on this team. And what are we? We're 10 days away now, James. 10 days away.
Yeah.
From when the rubber hits the road, and you have to find a way to beat BYU. It was Andrea Urban's voice that came in there and said, will this change the trajectory of your season if you can get a win? And the obvious answer is yeah. But more importantly, if you lose to BYU at home, 5th loss in a row, 2nd time in a single season that you lose a game coming off a bye week, which used to be – that never happened for Utah.
It used to be money. I think
there was a time in Kyle Whittingham's career as a head coach that he was like 8-1 coming off a bye week, and there was a time in Kyle Whittingham's career where if you gave him extra time to prepare, like you got before bowl games, he had the best bowl record for any active coach, any coach in the history of football.
He was
for a while.
What after their last bowl win, which seems like forever ago now, I think it was after the 2017 season, right? And it's been a while since they won a bowl game. After the last bowl win, he tied like Nick Saban for bowl wins. I think is what it was. He was among,
and he had a higher winning percentage
than all of those. Than all the other guys. Saban's only one of the guys on the list that he was tied with. He's tied with the legends of the profession, and he is still tied with those guys. And you're right. The whole narrative heading into bowl games after bye weeks was always, well, Utah's going to win because Witt never loses in these situations.
Yeah, there was a time where you were like, Kyle Whittingham doesn't lose, Kyle Whittingham staff, Kyle Whittingham team doesn't lose when they have extra time to prepare. And that's what you have. Of course, that's what your opponent has as well. BYU also on a bye, so BYU also has the extra time, and BYU, from a momentum, confidence, health standpoint, is in a much better spot than Utah is. But you have to find a way, as we talked about, and you have 10 days to try and figure that out. The countdown clock it's not quite doomsday, but I promise you that November 9th, if it goes in a positive direction, it won't just be like this one-day situation in a vacuum, right? Then good things will come out of that. If it goes in the wrong direction and you lose, and right now on paper, you could see like a catastrophic loss, right? If that happens, the trickle-down effect, the cascading fallout will be negative across the board. 10 days to figure it out. Now, while you're trying to figure out the short term, the game plan, you're also having to look at, what about my long-term future at the University of Utah? Kyle Whittingham has been pondering this for several seasons now. He's made it clearer and clearer that he's here for a good time, not a long time from this point forward, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of folks who think, hey, this is it for Kyle. And there's a lot of folks right now who are like expressing some kind of relief in that thought. I am not in that camp. Kyle Whittingham is the best coach to roll through this university in its history ever. His culture, which is soiled and poisoned and broken right now, I think can be mended, can be healed. And Kyle Whittingham, in my opinion, gets to stay at the University of Utah for as long as he wants. There's not a person in the state, there's not a person in college football, in my opinion, that can even nudge Kyle one way or another for the, quote, best interest of the program. The best interest of the program still is to have Kyle Whittingham at the helm. I strongly believe that. Now, if that's going to be the case, or even if it's not, there needs to be some thought put into, well, Andy Ludwig resigned, or Andy Ludwig was forced out, or Andy Ludwig, whatever. He's no longer there.
Yeah, he's gone.
He's gone. He ain't coming back.
He gone.
Andy Ludwig, I think, probably feels a little bit vindicated, although he is not a vindictive personality. He probably feels a little vindicated watching the offensive performance without him and realizing, like, okay, I'm not the problem. We told you on this show, guys, Andy Ludwig is the scapegoat, not the problem right now.
Yeah.
And that has been the case. So enter Mike Bajakian, who we've talked about, and I've told you what his numbers were and his other offensive coordinating duties. And now I pose a question to you, the listener. I pose a question to you, the Ute fan. I pose a question to you who feels like you might have an answer here. 877-353-0700 at Real OC Sports on Twitter. By the way, the Kyle Whittingham sound is up at ESPN700sports.com. If you didn't get a chance to listen to it live with us.
Just tweeted it out again on our ESPN 700 Twitter account as well.
Okay, so it's out there.
Too.
You can find it. Mike Bajakian has been tasked with improving the offensive output. In his first week, where let's be fair, he found out on Sunday night he was going to be calling the plays.
Yeah, this is great on a curve for the first game for sure.
Yeah, this is exactly like it is when Brandon Rose gets thrown into the game. Like, hey, you didn't have any starting reps in practice this week, but here you go. Kyle Whittingham said they'll be given equal reps moving forward, right? Well, Mike Bajakian, he gets a little bit longer leash here. He gets a little bit more of a runway to call and put together a perfect game plan, a quote-unquote perfect game plan for BYU. So I'm asking you, not just against BYU, but also over the next 4 weeks. He's been told you got to improve the offense. How much does it have to improve? What kind of offensive output, what kind of point scoring, because that's really what matters. Yards, we don't care about. Points are what win you games. How many points does this offense need to generate for you to say, remove the interim tag, and whether it's Kyle Whittingham or whether it's Morgan Scalley or whoever is the head coach moving forward, Mike Bajakian is your offensive coordinator. I think that it is highly unlikely that Mike Bajakian coordinates this offense for more than these final 4 games. But the thing that could prove me wrong would be him turning this thing around and producing points. Not yards, not first downs, points. Touchdown drives. So, how many points? Right now, Utah is scoring less than 24 points a game offensively.
It's got to be more than that.
So
to start out.
I said, how many points? 21 to 24? That right now has 6% of the vote. I'm going to retweet this, by the way, because I put it out last night, so it might not be fresh on everyone's feed. 25 to 29 points. If you just improve by a field goal, by a touchdown, by a couple of field goals, is that going to be enough for you as a Utah football fan to see this guy installed as the permanent offensive coordinator? 30 to 33 points a game. And now we're getting out there. Now you're talking about 30 to 33 points a game puts you in the top half of offensive scoring in the Big 12 Conference. And obviously your remaining games are only conference games. Or 34-plus points. 34. There's only 2 teams in the conference that are scoring 34 points a game. There's only 2 teams. So you'd be in the top 3. Texas Tech and BYU are each scoring more than 34 points a game. Texas Tech 38.1, BYU 35.1 points a game.
Exactly what we thought coming into the year. Texas Tech and BYU would be the highest scoring teams in the conference.
Just like you had it written down, ladies and gentlemen. So 40% of the votes say I need 34 points a game in order to make him my permanent offensive coordinator. 37% of the vote says 30 to 33 points a game would be enough, which, by the way, with this defense continuing to perform at the level that it is, 30 to 33 points a game means that you probably win comfortably in these remaining games. You probably win by a touchdown in each of these remaining games. Right now, the margins on your defensive output, your scoring defense in the Big 12 Conference, and I have been critical of defense because I think they deserve some criticism, but they are certainly a lot better than your offense is right now. So you get 30 points plus out of your offense, you got some tough competition ahead of you. But right now, defense 2 in the conference, 16.5 points a game given up. So if you score, let's say that because of BYU, right? The number 2 offense in the conference is who you got to play against next week. So I'm not going to pretend that you're going to only give up 16 points to BYU. Let's say you give up 24 points to BYU. Well, guess what? If you score 30 points, you still win. Colorado right now. Colorado is a better offense than you can face. So you're going to push that out, and you're probably not going to hold Colorado. It's in a game. Got Travis Hunter. They've got 27 points. You can get shaky. And
the Utes haven't given a game all.
Correct.
27 the high score, and I've been in that more privately. If they just get to 30 points, they get to before you know this come to the game. Say offense get you 30 every game at us team right like that. This year they're undefeated. That's my vote. It's to give the confidence, but any coordinator in today's call not to be able to exceed that 30 threshold.
This is interesting. Twitter. From this responder. Trick question. It doesn't matter. What do you mean it doesn't matter?
Trick question.
It's not it.
Yeah, we're being tricky. We absolutely are. No, we're being very straightforward.
Are you telling me that if Mike Bajakian somehow gets 30 points per game out of this offense, that Utah doesn't win at least 3 of the next 4 games? Are you telling me that you think if somehow this offense puts up 30 points, now the defense is going to fall off or something?
Yeah,
I mean, the numbers are what they are. So
I think if there was a 5th option, you'd go with the Kyle Whittingham thing where it's like more than the other team scores. You know what I mean? But I'm not sure that's enough to remove the interim tag. That's certainly enough for fans the rest of this season. Just give up. Like for me, just the rest of this. If we're just talking about the rest of this season, what would be a successful offense for the rest of this season? Not thinking about his job going forward, it would be score more than 20 a game.
Look, BYU is going to score. BYU is going to score between 24 and 39 points against the University of Utah, even in a good situation for Utah. They just are.
Yeah,
all right?
That's how good they've been.
They have awesome personnel. Aaron Roderick is in his groove right now in a way that we haven't seen from him. Like, he is killing it as an offensive coordinator right now. So BYU on the low end is going to score 24 points in this rivalry game.
I agree
on
with
the
that.
low end.
I agree with that.
So
Plus,
Mike Bajakian and company, Brandon Rose, Isaac Wilson, whoever you are, you have to score in that 30-plus range just for November 9th. And then you've got Colorado, and then you've got Iowa State. And I guess there's a temporary reprieve because UCF is not super great right now. But guess what they are going to do? They're going to try to run the ball down your throat. And guess what? You gave up 230 yards to Houston. So the offense needs to find a way to give some relief to the defense.
Absolutely. And you mentioned BYU. Another reason why BYU you can expect to get at least 24 points from the Cougars at Rice-Eccles Stadium is their defense is producing points too.
Yes. Their defense is creating short fields. Their defense.
They're getting pick sixes. Do we need to mention the punt return game too? Like they're setting them up with short fields and special teams. Like it's not just the offense that's going to produce points or put them in position to score. It's the defense and special teams. The Cougars have shown that all year long.
877-353-0700 is the Dish Pros text line. This text coming in from 3869. I think getting 30 points a game from this offense sounds almost impossible. I'm thinking 4 extra points per game would be a win. Okay. Would it be enough of a win for you to then say, Mike Bajakian, you're our guy moving forward?
I think he's thinking the way that I was starting to explain, that of the short-term win.
Yeah.
But what you're talking about is the long-term for Mike Bajakian.
You have to have a vision, an identity. I beat it to death, a reputation as a team moving forward. Because of the transfer portal looming, because of signing day coming. The main signing day for college football now comes in mid-December. All right? We are 45 days away from Utah having to put together the future of Utah football, whether it's for Kyle Whittingham or for Morgan Scalley. If those players, the offensive players in that class and in the transfer portal, have no idea what you're going to look like offensively, it's going to be harder to get them to come here. And I'm talking especially about wide receivers and especially about quarterbacks. Because if you're a running back, if you're an offensive lineman, and now if you're a tight end at the University of Utah, you're probably, or thinking about the University of Utah, you're probably like, all right, yeah, well, if Kyle Whittingham's there, my position is still going to be featured. I'm still going to be an important part of what they want to do. And even if Kyle Whittingham steps down, you're probably going to be like, yeah, Morgan Scalley's probably going to maintain that. But if you can't tell these people who your offensive coordinator is, that gets very convoluted and very complicated in the recruiting, the re-recruiting picture. So that's why I'm so curious about this Mike Bajakian output. In the long term, does he improve your scoring 2 points a game, 5 points a game, a touchdown per game? Does this guy somehow get you an extra 10 points per game? And is that enough, if he is able to do so, to make him the permanent offensive coordinator? If he gave you an extra 10 points a game, by the way, you're scoring 32.8 points per game. You're now number 3 in the conference. And yes, take the interim tag off of him.
That should absolutely be
slap a $750,000 salary or $1 million salary down on his table and say, there you go. But guess what? He's only produced those kinds of numbers one time as an offensive coordinator in his entire career. When he's been given play calling duties, he's produced that almost 30 points a game one time.
Can I tell you my favorite tweet that came out after he was named interim OC?
Okay.
Stuart Mandel. And it was cold. He goes, 124th, 123rd, and 120th in yards per game are the last 3 teams he's been offensive coordinator. That no other words. That was Stuart Mandel. It was like a Brett McMurphy style.
Yes.
Hey, here's great, but here's the actual production. I don't think he meant it as a slight.
No,
but
he did mean it as a slight.
But it was
he absolutely meant it as a slight.
But it was funny.
When we went over Mike Bajakian's career numbers, I did try to make it clear that part of that is because he was coordinating at places that were under-talented relative to the competition.
I mean, Northwestern, for example, his last stop. You're not going to get much higher than 120th.
When you're at Northwestern and you're at Vandy, you're talking about being like the bottom of your conference's barrel in both of those situations. Now, there were people who responded to this tweet last night, the question last night. They were like, well, you don't really have much personnel-wise. The only question still, for me, is whether or not you have a quarterback. And I realize that is an albatross of a question, but I am not doing this thing that a lot of people are willing to do right now, pretending that your wide receiver core is bad. They're not. They're better than you've had most years you were in the Pac-12.
It's worse now that we know that Money Parks is out, but it's still really good.
It got worse, right? But Dorian Singer is still there, all right? Maybe because you only have 4 games left, you don't have to consider trying to keep a red shirt on Damian Alford. Maybe you finally get him involved, right? There are guys that you can get involved in this game plan potentially. Throw a pass to Luca Caldarella and see what happens. Don't just motion him in to block. Let's just see. Let's just see what it looks like. All right? Dadron Zipperer. Like some of these guys, they have athleticism. Do they have the hands? Let's find out. All right? I'm not doing the thing where people are like, well, with this offense, how are you supposed to produce any kind of points? With this offense, heading into the year, we were like, how are you going to fail to produce points? There's only one ball. Who are you going to give it to? We were asking that question in like 6 different ways leading up to the season. Which tight end is going to get the most touches and catches? Which running back is going to get the most touches and touchdowns? Which wide receiver is going to be your elite wide receiver at the end of the year? And right now, we still shrug our shoulders about everyone except for Mekhi Bernard and except for Brant Keithy. So respond on Twitter at RealOCSports, 877-353-0700. In order to remove the interim tag from Mike Bajakian's offensive coordinator title, what kind of point production do you need to see from this Utah football team? Let me know what you think. Before we go to break, I want to remind all of you out there about my friends at Postnet and their new thing, Virtual Mail. It's not new to them. It's new to you. They're really dialed in. They're really good at this. Virtual Mail is a service that all your Postnet locations offer. Allows you to view and manage your mail digitally from wherever you are, on your phone, basically. It's a virtual mailbox. Gives you a street address for receiving mail and packages, and then you can manage how you want that mail handled. So just like when you're receiving mail at home and you're like, that goes in the recycle bin. Oh, that one I actually have to open. That's a bill I need to take care of. Oh, here's a package. I need to make sure that I open this package soon. They handle it. You decide whether it's going to be forwarded, recycled, shredded, or if you want to keep it, if it's something you need, you pick it up at your local Postnet center. Virtual Mail, they're handling it for you. Draper, North Salt Lake, Spanish Fork, and West Valley. I'm partial to the Draper location because I get to go see the dogs, but, give North Salt Lake, Spanish Fork, and West Valley a chance as well. Find your nearest Postnet location at postnet.com. Dependable solutions from Postnet. Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700.
So now it's Anthony Volpe with the opportunity. Bases loaded, 2 down, bottom of the third. Here's the pitch. Swing and a ball drilled left field. Hernandez back, gone! Grand slam, Anthony Volpe over the left field wall. And Yankee Stadium explodes. It's 5-2 New York.
Imagine growing up a fan of a team. And then when you become a 23-year-old adult, you somehow find yourself playing for that team. That team is in the World Series, and you hit a grand slam in a must-win game for that team you were a fan of when you were a small child. That is exactly what you just heard in that highlight. Anthony Volpe, grand slam in the third inning of Game 4 of the World Series. The Yankees did not look back after that one. They led the rest of the way, and they got the win that they so desperately needed. They're still trailing 3-1, but what a performance by the young man. And by the way, that was after a base running error kind of stranded him at third. He probably could have found a way to score, but instead, he's usually a good base runner. He made a mistake when he was tagging up, or thought he was going to have to tag up on a very, very deep fly ball, and total redemption. By the way, you could hear that call right here on ESPN 700 and on 92.1 FM. That was ESPN Radio, John Sciambi on the call. Game 5 is tonight at 6, and it's right here again on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
That, by the way, I hope people appreciate how much that hurt for me to have to highlight a great Yankees play like that keeps them alive. But we were talking off air, and in all seriousness, as a baseball fan, setting aside my anti-Yankee bias and yours as well.
Yes.
We didn't want it to end in a sweep. This is better.
Nobody
for sure.
Unless you genuinely, if you're a player for the Boston Red Sox,
yeah,
you're like, I don't want the Yankees to even win one game here. Everyone else wants a championship series to have some drama.
Want it to be interesting. And to be fair, the games all of them have been close, and there's been some drama in all the games. But this is better for it to be the chance to be a longer series. Now, that being said, I'm always rooting for them to lose. So if they lose tonight, I'll be happy. But I won't be completely upset if it goes back to LA and we get a 6 or 7 game series, because that'll be fun too.
So look, it was a great game for the Yankees. It was a really weird night at Yankee Stadium.
It was.
Mookie Betts going to catch a long fly foul ball over on the first baseline, deep on the first baseline, just almost, what would you say that was? 30 feet shy of the foul pole.
Yeah. And that's the short porch, so it's a short right field.
Yes. He goes up to make the catch, actually successfully made the catch, and 2 Yankee fans just I saw people memeing this. It's like when your small child or your dog put something in their mouth that's not supposed to be there, and then you
have to rip
you
it
grab
out.
them and you make that hideous face. You're just like, get that out of your mouth. That's what they were doing that, but with a legal playable foul ball, Mookie Betts caught, and 2 Yankee fans ripped it out of his glove. Fan interference of the worst kind.
Yeah,
they did so, but it was
terrible.
They grabbed his arms, they grabbed his wrist, and then it was like a team effort to try and yank that ball out. And by the way, they didn't even get to keep the ball. They didn't even catch the ball.
Can you imagine if Steve Bartman did that?
Dude, poor Bartman.
Here's the thing about the Bartman thing, not to go off on too big of a tangent. He wasn't really – Moises Alou wasn't close to catching that ball. If you watch, he was not that close to catching that ball. This was
caught.
It was caught.
It was in his glove.
Anyway.
They ripped it out of his glove.
But yeah.
Anyway, so, and you actually informed me of this. These idiots were removed from their seats, but are going to be allowed back in tonight.
They're
not like banned.
They must be season ticket holders, so they get those same seats tonight. That's Jesse Rogers from ESPN who broke that.
That's so stupid.
Isn't that so dumb? My favorite that I heard before you brought up it's like taking something out of your kid or dog's mouth was Marvin on the Dan Patrick Show, one of the Danettes. He said it was like my son opening up a Go-Gurt. He said that today on Dan Patrick's Show.
The like vehement concentration on the face of the man who was trying to rip that ball out of Mookie's glove. And Mookie was just outraged, as you would be, if you're out there trying to do your job and fans are accosting you. But
yeah, he could have had a wrist injury there. I mean, he's also probably worried that it's going to be called a foul ball instead of an out because the ball came loose. But thankfully, the right field umpire saw all of it unfold and was like, no, that's still an out. That's interference.
Is replay applicable there?
I'm not sure. I'm not totally versed on all of the MLB's replay rules.
Nor am I, and I'm not expecting you to be, but replay's got to apply in a situation like that.
I think that you can basically review anything in baseball now under their new rules, but there's obviously some restrictions. I don't know if that's one of them.
Anyway, so that was a weird moment in the game. And then, the Yankees got some offense going. The bats got hot. And the broadcast crew did a really excellent job of kind of painting the picture of how, an at-bat can really change things for this Yankees team. It's been that way all season for them. They're in some ways prisoners of the moment and have been. And it certainly played out that way last night. But
they were mostly talking about Aaron Judge because that's been the main talking point. All he needs is one at-bat to get himself going. Don't think he got that, but he did look better at the plate. Like they were talking about, because in the regular season, watching him play, particularly in the Red Sox games, the guy didn't swing at a ball. He just, you're going to throw it out of the strike zone? Not interested. In this World Series in particular, he's been swinging at everything. And last night, he looked more like the guy that's like, okay, I'm not going to be desperate and swing at everything that looks like it's close to a strike. And maybe that does something for Aaron Judge.
And by the way, Freddie Freeman hit another home run. First at bat.
We were talking off air. I was telling you, I thought the Yankees were done after that. I thought they might have, obviously you go into a game, you're at home, you're like, okay, I'm going to be up for this. We're going to make this happen. And then I thought he stole their hearts with that home run.
Well, thankfully, the Yankee players are made of tougher stuff than the fan base was, because
he stole the fan base.
The life went out of that building very early when Freddie Freeman goes yard. And yes, it was on the short porch, so it's the only ballpark in all of Major League Baseball that actually goes out. But it's his fourth home run in 4 games in the World Series.
I don't know if anyone's ever done that in 4 consecutive games. I don't know that anyone's homered in the World Series before.
Unbelievable like for Freddie Freeman, who's having quite the series. And obviously for Volpe now, Anthony Volpe, people get romantic about baseball and about sports in general. When they pulled up on the broadcast, while he's sitting 2 seats away from Derek Jeter, who was his childhood hero, who played in the same uniform as him.
Same position. And they pulled up the picture of him as an 8 or 9 year old wearing the Yankees hat, celebrating one of Derek Jeter's World Series wins. And now he is doing it, and he hit a grand bleeping slam at Yankee Stadium to keep their season alive. It's like, what? It's pretty cool.
That's amazing.
Admitted, even I have to admit that's pretty cool. No, you were talking about the short porch homer, how it wouldn't have gone out any other ballpark. I loved the Fox's wall that they made in the broadcast to show where the Dodger Stadium wall is in Yankee Stadium, and like the second deck of the upper deck is like sticking out of where Dodger Stadium's wall would have been if you put it in Yankee Stadium.
Yeah,
like. It was cool to see.
It's like a routine out at Dodger Stadium.
It was cool to see them show that, hey, this is what it would have been in Dodger Stadium. And John Smoltz said, you know what they're saying to that? Good thing we're not in Dodger Stadium today.
Also, you know what's insane? When I can't remember who hit the ball, but when Mookie Betts played the bounce off the wall,
yeah,
he's tracking it. He's following it. He's going all the way back to the warning track, and he somehow calculates that it's not going to go out, but I'm also not going to get there in time to try and make a leaping catch. So he kind of stops right where the grass and the track meet and faces the wall and plays the carom, plays the bounce. And it's so lightning fast. It's so insane.
Mookie Betts is so good in right field. It's worth saying he's familiar with Yankee Stadium because of his time with the Red Sox, too.
Yeah.
So
I
he's
guess,
got that institutional knowledge.
And I guess that means he knows exactly how that ball's going to bounce.
But he's so good in right field.
Like, I could watch that replay all night because it was like Spider-Man reflexes, not only to make the decision, but then to turn, to position your body in the right place. And instead of it being at least a double, maybe a triple, because if that ball bounces past him, it kind of trickles into no man's land. He holds it to a single, a ball that bounced off the wall.
Yeah.
Anyway,
he's a wizard in right field, and he always has been. And the fact that he's been playing some second base for the Dodgers this year, too, just shows just how good of an athlete and defensive player he is, for sure.
All right, before we get to the hot lunch, I have another important question for you. And I guess this kind of relates to Anthony Volpe's childhood dreams being realized with that grand slam, all right? Was there a food in your life, James, that you loved when you were a kid that as soon as you became an adult, you're like, oh, man, I never got to eat this growing up, or like it's been a while for nostalgia's sake. I'm going to buy this cereal, or I'm going to grab this beverage or whatever. And then you eat it as an adult, or you drink it as an adult, and you're like, this is disgusting. Why did I ever like this as a kid?
Oh, yeah.
That happened to me last night because my mother-in-law took my two older girls for like a little Halloween activity, whatever, and they brought home a box of Frankenberry cereal and a box of Count Chocula from this grandma day, all right? And I remember as a kid being a total slave to the marketing and being like, oh, my gosh, Count Chocula, Frankenberry, I want those so bad. And my parents were like the General Mills, or no, they were like the Malto Meal,
the bagged cereal.
The bagged cereal, right? They were like that. We're not paying full price.
It tastes just the same. Yeah. It's just a different name kind of bag cereal.
We weren't getting Count Chocula. Yeah. We weren't getting Fruity Pebbles. We weren't getting Frankenberry, okay? But I remember I loved eating, like we would get them for special occasions, and I loved those horrible chemical concoctions of like high fructose corn syrup cereals. Loved them, especially the ones with the prizes inside.
But it's made of corn, so it's healthy.
Yeah, okay. So I poured my daughter a bowl of Frankenberry. She's never had it before. And I poured her some, and I poured myself a little bit. And she takes one bite, and she's just like, eh.
You're like, what are you, crazy?
You spoiled little brat. What are you talking about? And then I tuck into mine, and I'm like, oh, this is awful.
This actually is
bad.
This
stuff is so disgusting.
And then you quickly pulled it away from your daughter.
Yes.
And be like, I'm sorry I subjected
I'm sorry I
to
did this. Also, this is poison. I never should have given it to you in the first place. But I was like, this is horrifically bad. I don't know if they changed the formula or if it always tasted like that, and my taste buds just had to grow up. But that was one for me that just happened, and I was like, oh. But it begs the question, is there something you loved when you were a kid that now you don't like, you don't eat, you won't eat?
McDonald's.
Okay, yeah.
We were huge into McDonald's in my family, and my mom's side of the family. Every time we visited grandma, we would get McDonald's and loved it. I almost would go to any other fast food place than McDonald's. Now, I did try the chicken Big Mac because I was like, I got to try it.
That looks kind of good. I haven't had one.
It was okay.
Is it the same chicken? Is it the same patty as you get on a McChicken?
Yes.
It's just a Big Mac?
It's not I thought it was going to be, they've got the deluxe chicken sandwiches now, which are better. I thought it was going to be that kind of a chicken breast, but it's the McChicken, and it's 2 McChicken patties. Like, it was all right. It wasn't awful, but it reminded me of why I don't go to McDonald's very much anymore. McDonald's is the main one for me, and then I would just say bubble gum in general.
bubble gum in general.
The-
I put the question out on Twitter, and
The flavor goes away in like a second.
yeah, one of my guys in the fight world said bubblegum ice cream. And
Yeah.
bubblegum ice cream was always an abomination. So if you're ordering that as a kid, you were wrong as a kid. Now, especially, it's just
But I used to always get the gumballs every time I saw one of the gumball machines, and I no. Like,
bubblegum.
it's good for like half a second, and then it's just no flavor, and you're like, I'm done chewing.
Spoiler alert, bubblegum sucks. Okay, we'll talk about this some more in the Hot Lunch. That's coming next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700. Hot lunch on the Sean O'Connell Show. Brought to you by Jersey Mike's. Every sandwich, fresh slice right in front of you. Cheesesteaks made to order on the grill. Go grab some Jersey Mike's. A sub above. I've been on the sub in a tub lately. The Italian, which is my favorite of the subs, is not as good as the sub in the tub.
It's not?
It's because the nature of the Italian meats, right, makes it hard for it to be like good in a salad or a tub. That's all.
Okay.
You need those to be packaged in bread.
The 13's my favorite as well. And I can imagine it not being as good just because I like the Italian herbs and cheese. Or no, the Parmesan. The Parmesan bread.
Yeah.
That's my bad. I referenced a different
There you
sandwich shop with
There you
the
go.
same kind of thing, but Jersey Mike's version. I like that bread too, so and it goes really well with the Italian.
It brings the whole thing
I
together.
can imagine not having that particular bread for me would make the sub in the tub not as good with the Italian, but I'm sure there's others that are great.
Okay, I have another question for you about the fan interference thing we saw in the World Series last night. Those guys are in front row tickets.
Yeah.
Those are really good tickets at Yankee Stadium. And it sounds like those are their season tickets.
Yeah, great foul ball territory.
How do these two things coexist? You are somehow financially solvent enough to have the kind of expendable income where those are your tickets, but you're also a big enough moron that you're trying to rip a ball out of Mookie Betts' glove. How do those two things live in the same person?
Money doesn't buy brains, OC.
I know, but like, how can you be that big of an idiot, but also have enough money? Like, because usually you have to have like some kind of intelligence in order to have that sort of expendable income. I guess there's plenty of exceptions to that. But anyway.
Yeah. It doesn't seem to fit together, but we've seen many exceptions. By the way, I liked your tweet last night, fill in the blank punishment for those fans. What should it be?
Yeah.
And some of those responses were gold. Make him a Mets fan. Apology to Steve Bartman and banned from all stadiums. Some good responses. Shout out to our listeners and your followers for some of that gold last night.
We're also getting some really interesting responses on the question I just asked you about a food that you loved as a kid, but your adult taste buds have decided is disgusting. SpaghettiOs have come in several times.
SpaghettiOs is a good one.
Mac and cheese. This one from...
See, I still love mac and cheese.
This
so
one
I don't
also,
know about that.
Cotton candy. I still love cotton candy, man.
I don't like cotton candy.
Cotton candy is straight up just like sugar, but Vienna sausages, how dare you? Those things are delightful. Pork and beans? Pork and beans is still great. You just pop the top of the can, you throw it right on the campfire, you eat it straight out of the can? Come on, pork and beans is good in the right context. This one I can't get on board with. I thought as you got older, this got more appealing, but Bracken on Twitter says root beer. Used to love root beer. No,
See, I still love root beer.
Root beer is the old man soda.
I love root beer.
When you become a dad, I thought you had to love root beer. I always loved root beer. I love root beer now more than I ever did. Root beer float, to me, is as high on the treat stratosphere as you can get.
Yeah, I love root beer, especially the places that make their own root beer.
Oh.
I'm a big Dr. Pepper guy, so I usually get Dr. Pepper when I go out to eat. I usually get that with my meal. But when a place advertises that they make their own root beer, I almost 9 times out of 10 I need to try that.
Root beer on tap is just a different level. Tuna fish sandwiches. What are you talking about, Nathaniel? You don't like a tuna fish sandwich? Those are good.
He must not have anyone to cut the crusts off for him now. That must be what it is.
More SpaghettiOs coming in. The cheap frozen kids meals. Oh, anything in that freezer section.
Frozen, yeah.
That you were just like, as a kid, you're like, oh, give me one of those Hungry Man meals. Heck yeah, Mom. And now you look at that, you're just like, oh.
Please, no. By the way, I omitted a big one, and I talked to you about it off air. Little Caesars is no longer good.
I think people ate too much Little Caesars when they introduced the $5 hot and ready.
Yeah.
And people just like
See, my brother worked at a Little Caesars, so he brought one home every night, but we didn't get sick of it when we were middle school,
when you're
high school.
Hungry and poor.
But,
yes.
yeah, I will spend, even though it's still the cheapest option, I will spend the extra $5 to $10 to get better pizza.
All right. Borgie, are you just flexing on us? Basically, all hard candy, Airheads, Capri Suns, and other sugary foods. Are you just a health nut now? Is that what you're trying to tell me on Twitter? That you're just too good for sugary foods now? This one, yes, from 4805. How dare you, Twitter? Root beer is a staple of our nation.
Thank you.
You're right. That's exactly how I feel about it. You know what I got for my birthday this year? I got a gourmet selection of bottled root beers.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like...
And the bottled root beer is usually better than any other root beer.
So much better than a can. So much better. You pop the top, right? You get the little...
Yeah.
And that mist that's coming out, you go... You suck it in.
Yeah.
You get a little taste on it. That right there, that's enough.
I love the mouth noise you just did with that, too.
Bologna sandwich. The bologna sandwich.
Oh, bologna sandwich is a good one.
You know what? If you have a smoker, you can smoke your bologna. That sounds like a euphemism. You can take bologna and you can put it in a
Don't
smoker.
worry, I just dumped it.
Okay. You can put it in the smoker, and it really changes the flavor profile, fancies it up a little bit.
Okay.
You know what? Great responses. Keep them coming. 877-353-0700. A food you loved as a kid that you can't stand as an adult. We're going to ask Scott Mitchell this same question. Of course, we're not just going to ask him about this, but the legend, the Utah football quarterbacking legend, the color analyst on Utah radio broadcast, stops by. We'll see how he processes the news that Money Parks is out for the season. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700. Pierre Maguire going to join us. One of the great voices in all of hockey. Pierre Maguire stopping by at 12:30. That's in 20-ish minutes here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Right now, a conversation with Scott Mitchell, brought to you by Larry H. Miller Chevrolet. Get Chevy ready this month with better-than-employee pricing and Solitude season passes with every new vehicle purchase. If you look to the mountains, you will see they are now snow-capped. So that Solitude season pass is something that you probably actually get to consider. Online at LarryHMillerChevrolet.com. Scott Mitchell, welcome to the show. How are you?
Well, I'm not much of a skier, but I do like to fish, and so I appreciate the water on the mountains because it fills up all the lakes and reservoirs and streams, so I go fish.
I love that. We got news from Kyle Whittingham at the media availability yesterday that Money Parks is out for the season. Another unfortunate injury for the University of Utah. How big of an impact will this make on the offense that is already struggling?
Well, Money is one of those players that can kind of go to the house. You know, he can take the top off of a defense. He's got a tremendous speed. He's a playmaker, and he's made some plays this year. Some of the few highlights that this offense has had have come through Money Parks, and it's a huge disappointment to have him lost for the season because he's a guy that could really be a significant part of kind of turning this thing around on offense.
So I put the question out on Twitter. The new offensive coordinator, Mike Bajakian, was given like 3 days to formulate a game plan last time out. And I know he's been part of the offense already, but he was handed the keys and said, all right, you got a short week of practice and you got to go to Houston. We got to get this thing done. Now he's got a little bit longer runway, and he's got 4 games left. He's the interim offensive coordinator, Mike Bajakian. How many points does he need to produce in order to see that interim tag taken off?
Oh, boy. That's a really good question. This is an offense that should be way, way more productive than it is, and so much of it has been the inconsistent play at quarterback and injuries and all that stuff. And so it's kind of almost unfair to say, Andy Ludwig was a really, really good offensive coordinator, and he was having challenges the last couple of years. You beat BYU, and it changes a lot of things for a lot of people, and it changes the perception, changes, you might beat BYU and lose the rest of the games all year long, and it still might be okay. This offense should score more than 30 points a game. So if you can get in that, to answer your question, then that's probably, if you were doing that, then yeah, you should be the offensive coordinator, especially with how this team's gone this year.
Yeah, that's the most common answer that came in, that if you can get to that threshold.
Oh, so I got it right then.
Well, you probably know a lot more about football than most of us answering the question. But in any case, like, you look at it on paper, you look at it on film, 30 points a game with this defense means that you're in a really good spot. So how realistic is it to get there with a backup quarterback who is now your starter? We don't know which one it's going to be, by the way, and with some more injuries, but still weapons, Scott. There are still weapons in this offense. I'm not going to allow people to just give up and say, this was never that good of a locker room. There's never that good of a wide receiver room, never that good of a tight end room. There's talent. How realistic is it to improve, even if you don't get to 30 points, which would be a touchdown better than what you're doing right now? Do you have the bodies to improve?
Oh, yeah. And what you have to improve on is the look that Utah's getting. They're getting an extra man in the box. They're daring Utah to throw the football. They've done an okay job of handling it, and they brought the wide receiver in motion, and they got tight ends in the game, and to account for that extra defender, but it's not been a consistent thing that's happened. People are just pinning their ears out. Utah's not doing a good job on 3rd and long, giving the quarterback enough time to throw. You think of last week against Houston, a team that was not good really doing anything, and they had 2 big plays in the game that were touchdowns on passes, and it's when Utah came after them, and they found a way to block it up. And so that's the kind of thing, if people are going to come after you, you got to block up and at least give your quarterback a chance to throw the ball. So many times that hasn't been the case. And these receivers, given enough time, can get open against pretty much anyone when you're man coverage. Just like Utah's, I think, secondary is pretty good, but it's hard to put those guys on a big island and blitz and not get to the quarterback, and then you're going to get burned for touchdowns. So if Utah could do those two things and figure that out a little bit, this offense would probably score, in the 20s or more. If you score 25 points a game, you're going to be undefeated right now. So it's not like you have to get to 40 or it's a track meet. It's like, get in your mid-20s and you're probably going to win most of the rest of your games this year.
Scott Mitchell, my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700. Coach Witt was asked about the offensive line's performance, and he said, that sometimes we're holding on to the ball too long. Some metrics say that this offensive line is as efficient as any other offensive line in the conference. There's been good and bad, in my opinion, from the big men up front. How have you assessed their play, especially in this 4-game losing streak?
I know when Cam came back and before, he had plenty of time to throw. They had all day to throw. And they've been doing a nice job of both. A lot of times these offensive linemen either run block really well and they're just a little bit suspect in their pass protection. You used to see guys just kind of getting beat one-on-one often, or maybe often's a little harsh, but more than it should be. And I'm not seeing that like I had seen like last year. I thought the offensive line a year ago played very poorly, but I certainly think they've played well enough for a really good quarterback or a good quarterback to have plenty of time to throw the ball and consistently have, down after down. Someone's going to win sometimes, because these players aren't garbage you're playing against. And that's what, mobile quarterbacks are for, is to avoid that rush or avoid that guy that gets through on occasion. And the offensive line, I think, has done a very solid job this year. Better than solid.
Mekhi Bernard, he got 15 touches in the last game, and he's been one of the bright spots on this offense. And Brant Keithy had a great game against Houston. He's been pretty consistent this year. Mekhi Bernard, like I said, I think maybe a little underutilized, even though he's proven himself time and time again. There's a level of fatigue, both mentally and physically, that sets in when you have a stretch of your season like this. And this bye week comes and hopefully allows you to hit a reset button that you so desperately need. But will we see more of Mekhi Bernard against BYU and beyond when he's the guy who's been averaging 6+ yards a carry?
Well, you'd be stupid if you didn't. Clearly he's been the consistent bright spot on this offense. And I've loved his demeanor. I've loved his pace. When he's in the game, he's playing hard. He's running hard. He's running confident. He's running with a lot of vision. He's a guy that's out there looking to make plays. So those are the guys you want to get the ball to, the ones who really, really want the ball and are looking. They don't have their head down and they're not running into the first warm body they see, and they kind of have a sense and a feel for the game. And Mekhi's a complete player. He's a guy that can block in the pass protection, get out in passing routes. He's a great receiver. So there's a lot of ways you can utilize him. I think that was one of the things that Mike Bajakian, they ran a couple of screens, like traditional screens to the running back, which is something I haven't seen a lot of with Utah. And they worked good and worked bad. And, screens are a whole discussion. You're either a screen team or you're not, but at least they're trying different ways to get Mekhi involved in what's happening and just getting him, as many touches as you possibly can. And there are other guys that need to be involved as well. Dorian Singer's a guy that needs to get involved, and someone's going to come in for Money Parks now. I don't know who it's going to be. You saw a little bit of Manur McLean Maybe some of the zipper maybe comes in. Maybe, there's some other guys out there that might, maybe you see a little bit more of Micah Pittman. But there's certainly a lot there with this team. But Mekhi Bernard's a guy, not only just what he does on the field, but he needs to be a guy, what he does off the field, in the locker room, at practice, in the huddle during the games, on the sideline. There really needs to be somebody that becomes that vocal, we're not going to take this anymore, we're not taking this line down, we're not going to quit, we're not going to give up type of leader. And someone needs to be that person. And, you're not going to expect a freshman to do it. I'm telling you, OC, I really liked what I saw in Brandon Rose. And I saw a guy kind of with that same demeanor, that he was pumped up to be out in the game, that he was playing with decisiveness, that there was a lot of really, really good things I saw. And so, maybe he's the guy, maybe he's that spark that kind of gets all of this going, because those receivers, those tight ends, need a quarterback to get them the ball at the right time and in the right spot so that they can shine. And they need to do it early. This, it's like I was watching the World Series and they said, man, the Yankees need to score early because and not let the Dodgers score early, because then it just gets in their mind and they start pressing and they start doing too much. Same thing in football. If you don't get your guys involved early, it can be demoralizing. It can be, oh boy, here we go again kind of mindset. And so that's so important. Whatever Mike Bajakian does, he needs to do that too.
I think when you talk about these quarterbacks, and there are a lot of folks who feel about Brandon Rose's performance the same way you do, that like he was put in to try and provide a spark. And even though the production didn't end up being stellar, and even though you didn't win that game, like there are plenty of people who feel like there was a difference. Now, Kyle Whittingham said at post-practice media availability that they will be given extra reps. Isaac Wilson and Brandon Rose will be given equal reps to try and separate themselves, and maybe we'll see a different starter going out against BYU. Do you think that what you saw against Houston is enough that you're ready to say, yeah, I think he could win this job for the rivalry game?
So I've been around football a long time. And I can tell you when I played, you see a guy, and in a short period of time, he either has it or he doesn't. Like, it doesn't take you, well, let's take a couple of weeks of practice and let's give him equal reps and let's do all this stuff. I'm just telling you that from the short thing I saw in the game on Saturday, Brandon Rose was much more ready to play than Isaac Wilson. Isaac Wilson has been in for 4 or 5 games now, and you haven't seen any like bump forward. You've just seen the same performance, maybe even a regression in performance. And that you have to just kind of have that honest conversation with yourself. It's like, he's just not ready to play right now. Doesn't mean down the road, doesn't mean next year, it just means right now he's not ready to play. And this may be Kyle Whittingham and his way of handling the situation, because you've got to still recruit your own players, right? So you bench Isaac Wilson. What does that mean for the future? These coaches are afraid to say the wrong word or look at a player wrong because they'll enter the transfer portal, and that's not right either, and that's not fair. But that's a lot of the world, because these players have way too much control, and I like that they get that control, but this is way too much. Like, it's ridiculous. So I can tell you, these coaches should be able to tell you, and the most important thing is who's ever the guy needs to be taking all the reps right now, especially if it's Brandon Rose. And he's, you got to give him as much of a chance to succeed as he possibly can. Don't put him in a situation where, Isaac's got all the reps, and here you go in the second half of the Houston game, and you haven't really, it's hard. It's hard to get your timing down if you haven't practiced. It's just a really hard thing to do, and to be consistently confident or productive. But when you get the reps, you get the chemistry, you got a better shot when the game happens. So This isn't rocket science. It's not. It shouldn't be a hard thing to figure out for these coaches who the guy is and who the guy isn't. Just shouldn't.
Last thing before I let you go, and it has nothing to do with Utah or with football. A food or drink or whatever from your childhood that you loved back then that your adult taste buds reject.
Oh, wow. It's almost gone the reverse for me because, see, I just love it. It's just like food is just yes. It's yes. It's like it's food, yes. Let me think here for a second. Black licorice is a really, really hard thing for me.
Oh, gross.
I used to hate guacamole, and now like I can drink it. Like I love it. Pineapple was a horrible thing for me. Just couldn't stomach it.
And now you like it?
Now I love pineapple.
Wow.
See, that's what I mean. It's gone the opposite direction.
You've gone the opposite.
I'm left-handed, and I'm weird anyway, so I work backwards from folks,
I like it. There's plenty of foods, that when I was like tomatoes. I hated tomatoes when I was a kid. Now I love tomatoes. Yeah. Tomatoes are great, but
see, I was allergic to tomatoes and oranges, and I still ate them. I broke out in hives, and I grew out of it. So
you just you inoculated your body against your own allergy.
Totally. Yeah.
I love that.
My grandma had a baking soda paste that I'd just have hives all, and they just smear them all over my body. They'd can tomatoes, and I'd sit there and just drink the juice as it. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, Scott. What a pleasure every time. Thank you.
You got it.
Scott Mitchell, Utah football legend. Again, that conversation brought to you by Larry H. Miller Chevrolet and part of our Big 12 at noon, which is presented by Mountainland Supply. Visit them at mountainlandsupply.com. All right. Utah Hockey Club been on a bit of a slide. We'll talk about it with Pierre Maguire, one of the great minds in all of NHL hockey. We're lucky enough to get him in 3 minutes on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700.
So Granlund has it back out high. He'll take a shot, and that bounces over the top, and they score. And Wenberg puts it in, and the San Jose Sharks get their first win in October since 2022. And a shocker here tonight at Delta Center.
Our producer, James Peterson, just salting the wound there for all of you Utah Hockey Club fans. That highlight of the Sharks game winner from Monday, brought to you by SEG Media. Matt McConnell on the call. Yes, Utah Hockey Club was up 4-1 at the start of the third period and ended up losing 5-4 in overtime. Yes, that hurts everyone's feelings, but we're going to get to the bottom of it. My next guest here behind the glass on the Sean O'Connell Show has had just about every position there is in the world of hockey. He knows it from all angles, and we're lucky enough to welcome Pierre Maguire to the show. Pierre, welcome. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic, OC. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, we appreciate you being willing and giving us some insight. Like I said, you've had about every job there is in hockey: player, executive, analyst, on broadcasts. What's the best way to take in hockey? What's been your favorite role in the hockey world?
Winning Stanley Cups when I was coaching in Pittsburgh. That's a pretty tough role to look past, but I really enjoyed my broadcasting career. The last 24 years of my life I spent working at NBC and at TSN in Canada, and obviously NBC lost the rights at the national level to TNT and to ESPN. So I went and worked for the Ottawa Senators for a while, and now I'm back trying to get involved in the media side of things. But coaching in the National Hockey League, playing in the National Hockey League, they're hard things not to enjoy. And when you're winning, and I had the good fortune of winning in Pittsburgh, it never gets boring, and it's something you never look past. And, the great Fred Shero, the legendary coach that coached Philadelphia to 2 Stanley Cups, he had a line that resonates with me all the time. If we win today, we walk together forever. And that was something that I think all our Pittsburgh teams that won really still feels to this day.
That's an awesome line. That's something that I think this Utah Hockey Club is aspiring to, and not yet in that conversation. It was a hot start to this inaugural season in Salt Lake City, and they've come back down to earth a little bit. Hopefully what we saw against San Jose on Monday night with the collapse, hopefully that's the low point, and this young team bounces back. But when you see, 3 goals given up in short order to tie a game, and then obviously the Sharks go on to win in overtime, what leads to something like that? How does that happen to a squad like it did to this Utah Hockey Club on Monday?
Well, I watched the game. They let their guard down. There's no question about that, OT. That's number one. Number two, little things matter in hockey games, and 3 little things happen that can't happen. They lost 3 defensive zone faceoffs in a row. Alexander Kudfert lost 1, and then Kevin Stenlund lost 2. 1 led to the tying goal. 1 obviously leads to the overtime winning goal. Faceoffs really matter a lot. Knowing Andre Tourigny, the coach there, and knowing John Madden, the assistant coach there, I'm sure those are details that they'll be trying to iron out more and more. They're both really attention to detail type coaches. So I don't think that will be a problem long term. But I think when you have a younger team like Utah has, a team that hasn't had a lot of winning time, so to speak, it takes time to get there. And one of the things that's really palpable and really apparent, OC, the energy in the building. And it's great to have it, but you can't rely on it as a player. And I think that's one of the things that coaches are going to have to work with the players on, because, they're about, after tonight's game at Calgary, they go on the road to Vegas, Winnipeg, St. Louis, and Nashville. Not easy. So you've got to learn how to play in all environments. And I think that was actually a pretty good wake-up call for that team the other night.
When you talk about that attention to detail, and look, a lot of us in the Utah market are relative hockey neophytes and not as familiar with how the practice schedule works in such a grueling season, and even the training camp schedule is so abbreviated for NHL teams. How much time do you have to work on things like faceoffs, on things like overtime hockey, on things like your special teams, when you're also trying to make sure guys are rested and healthy for a season that is just an absolute grind?
Yeah, that's such a good point, and I totally agree with you, OC. I think the biggest thing is you have to look at the schedule. Obviously, that game took place on Monday night. Here we are on Wednesday night. They're going to reload against a Calgary team that's lost 3 in a row. So they've probably spent a lot of time breaking down Calgary's power play. They've spent a lot of time breaking down Calgary's penalty kill. They've looked at the faceoffs. I guarantee you they've looked at, what Nazem Kadri would do or what Michael Backlund would do, two of the top centermen for the Calgary Flames. They don't really have to go on the ice and punish the guys. They need to do a lot of film study. They need to do some refined learning on the ice. The one thing I would say, and again, I'm very familiar with the coaching staff there, there are two things that can really get extremely better there. One would be the penalty kill. They're 20th in the league. And one would be the power play. They're 24th in the league. And if they could make those two things a little bit better, they have a chance to really be competitive in their division and potentially be either a wild card team or a depth team for the playoffs.
Pierre McGuire, our guest here, NHL Insider, as we talk Utah Hockey Club. They've got Calgary tonight, as Pierre just mentioned, looking to bounce back after a really embarrassing collapse against the San Jose Sharks on Monday night, and then they'll go on the road, and it's a tough road slate. This is a team that's been decimated by injury, the blue line especially, and that was in the offseason, a place they had to address. Durzi's out, had shoulder surgery. It's going to be several months, and we've yet to see Marino skate for this team because of injuries. He had a lower back surgery, so hopefully that recovers properly. They went out and they made a trade. Your thoughts on Ali Mata and, whether or not he could add something? He's been a third-pairing defenseman for, I guess, this most recent season. Can he help this team out in the defense?
He can, especially if he plays in a depth position. I've known Oli a long time, going back to when he was a kid growing up in Jyväskylä, Finland, which if you know Finland at all, it's in the Lakes country. It's a beautiful part of the country, especially in the summertime, and it can get a little bit cold in the wintertime. But the ice is fast and the hockey's good, and Oli's from that part of the Finnish region, and it's really got a long tradition in hockey. He's a kid that left Finland and go play major junior hockey in London, Ontario. He played in 2 World Junior Championships that I watched and broadcast. I'm a big fan. He's not a kid anymore. He's 30 years of age. There's some miles on the tread. But I would just say this. He's a guy that's coachable. He's a player that is an amazing teammate, and he will fit in what they're trying to do there. You talked about 2 really important things, OC. Not having Sean Durzi. That's a player that plays almost 22 minutes a game on average. And not having Johnny Marino, who I know really well as a player from his time at Harvard and also playing in the Boston area when he was a kid growing up. Almost 350 games of experience when you count his regular season and his playoff games. That's a big miss for them. Those 2 guys are big misses. So, getting Mata's good. Ian Cole's a Stanley Cup winner. I'm a huge fan of him. I've known him since he played at Notre Dame, used to broadcast his games. And the real big cool story so far, I think, around the league has been the play of Michael Kesselring. Everybody around the league is talking about him. He's a kid that went to Northeastern University, big body, 6'5", 220. He can really play, and he's really starting to find his way, which is really exciting if you're a fan of the Utah Hockey Club.
Sergachev, the acquisition of Mikhail Sergachev was a big deal for this team in the offseason, and he's playing right now 26 minutes a game. Is that sustainable?
It is for him. He's just a horse. He can really handle those minutes. I think he's a player that needs to be in rhythm. One of the guys that he could really have learned from in Tampa was Victor Hedman, who's the captain of that team now since Steven Stamkos moved on to Nashville. And I think, for Mikhail, this is a real good opportunity for him. There'll be nights when you're going to say, what the heck is he doing? Because he's going to make some misreads, and sometimes he's just not going to be as plugged in as he needs to. And on other nights, you're going to say, oh, my gosh, this guy's just a tower of power. He's a beast out there, especially on the power play and especially with how well he shoots the puck. So I obviously thought it was a tremendous hire. I know J.J. Moser's done well in Tampa, but you can't compare the 2 players. Sergachev's got far more upside, and I think he's going to do some really good things there. In terms of 26 minutes a game, maybe that'll bounce down about 24, but he could play that. He can handle that. He's a really fit guy.
A couple more minutes here with Pierre McGuire, NHL Insider, on the Sean O'Connell Show. As they've tried to solve these defensive problems, they also recalled Maverick Lamoureux from the Roadrunners. And, he's only been on the ice for 3 games, but I think what we've seen has been pretty promising when you're calling a guy up, when you're bringing a guy who maybe wasn't part of your plans up to the big league. What are you looking for in these first few games from somebody like Lamoureux?
Can he handle the intensity? Can he handle the speed? Can he play with enough discipline, especially a person that's 6'7", 215 pounds, and that's what he is. Because the speed becomes really apparent, the intensity becomes really apparent, and then is he coachable? They drafted him in the first round for a reason. He's big. They like him a lot in terms of hockey sense, and they think he can develop into a real shutdown guy. So if you look at the right side right now of Utah's defense, you got Kesselring at 6'5", and Lamoureux at 6'7", and Bortuzzo, who's about 6'3", 6'4". That's a massive right side of your defense, OC. That's huge. And if Lamoureux can handle the intensity and the speed, that'll be fantastic news for Billy Armstrong, the general manager in Utah. Because I'm telling you right now, there are not a lot of defenses in the National Hockey League that big on the right side.
What do you think of Dylan Guenther? He's the goals leader right now for this team. Got out to a blistering hot start. He had one the other night. I like him as a player. What are your thoughts? Because you're clearly an encyclopedia on all these guys.
Oh, I'm a huge fan of Dylan Guenther, going back to watching him play junior and then obviously the World Junior representing Canada. He's a pure sniper. He was a tremendous draft pick. He's a guy that's not afraid to have the puck on his stick at key times in the game. He wants the puck. He demands the puck. He's ever the opportunist, and most goal scorers are really opportunistic, and I think you've got a star in the making there. He's going to be a fan favorite for a long time because he is going to light the lamp a lot. And now it's just the subtleties in his game that will get better and better all the time. One of the things I really like about the staff you have there, Johnny Madden was a Stanley Cup winner, tremendous player, undrafted player out of the University of Michigan. Blaine Forsythe was an outstanding special teams coach with the Washington Capitals, especially in 2019 when they won the Stanley Cup beating Vegas. And Mario Duhamel's got a tremendous track record of working with young players along with Andre Tourigny. That staff's really good in Utah. It's exciting to see the potential for those young players. So I think a player like Guenther's really going to thrive in that kind of an environment.
Pierre, this is a more of a big picture question. I moved to Sandy, Utah, a suburb of Salt Lake City when I was 9 years old from Cottage Grove, Minnesota. And in Minnesota, hockey is life and was life. And when we got here, I was like, all right, where's the rink? And there was one, and it was 30 minutes away from my house, and you had ice time at 4:30 in the morning because there was the Golden Eagles pro team here back in those days, and my parents were not dyed-in-the-wool hockey folks, and they're just like, all right, well, I guess you're playing basketball now. I bring that up because hockey culture is brand new to Utah, is brand new to Salt Lake City. Now, the Smith Entertainment Group, this ownership, Ryan Smith and his wife and all the people involved, they're trying to change that. They're building a massive practice facility down in that same suburb, actually in Sandy, Utah, and trying to establish these youth programs, the junior hockey club, like we just haven't had here. How long does it take? How long is it going to take, do you think, for Utah? Because we got a lot of kids here. We got a lot of parents here that are invested in sports and want to see their kids succeed and have activities that are good for their bodies and their minds and developing teamwork and all that. But how long do you think it's going to take for Utah and for Salt Lake City to have a real hockey culture and a real hockey base?
Oh, see, what an awesome question. So I'm going to utilize some pretty graphic comparables. It didn't take Vegas very long. In fact, they were in their first year. They went to the Stanley Cup final. And Mr. Foley, the owner there, along with George McPhee and Kelly McCrimmon, have done an amazing job, that entire organization, building up the infrastructure of hockey around Vegas. Then you look at Jeffrey Vinnick and what they did down in Tampa. When they took over that team, it was in peril. It was in major financial distress and peril. They have built hockey up unbelievably large in Tampa. It took Mr. Vinnick maybe 2 to 3 years to get that thing really vibrant. Then you look at the Dallas Stars, which is really one of the prototypical teams in a non-traditional hockey market of building it up with infrastructure, with rinks, with youth programs. After they moved from Minnesota, it wasn't long after they won the Cup in 1999. Hockey just boomed. It took probably 5 or 6 years. So I'm going to say with Mr. Smith, who reminds me a lot, by the way, of Jeffrey Vinnick, who I think is the best owner in all of professional sport, who owns the Tampa Bay Lightning and just sold it, believe it or not, for $1.8 billion. He's an amazing owner. I've known him a long time. I respect him a ton. And every time I see Mr. Smith on the air being interviewed or talking, it reminds me so much of Jeffrey Vinnick. So you're in really good hands there with ownership. It's not going to take long. And I just have to throw one more thing out there, OC. The 2002 Winter Games were as much fun as I've ever had, and I've done 8 Olympics. And I would tell you this, the passion, the fan base, the electricity around the rink, day in and day out, whether it was for the men's games or the women's games in Salt Lake at that Olympics, was phenomenal. And there is a culture of hockey in Salt Lake in particular because of, obviously, the relationship with the Calgary Flames for a long time when they were winning championships in the old IHL. So I don't think it's going to take very long, OC. And I'll tell you what, I'm having a blast talking to you because I'm so excited about where the product's going and with Mr. Smith in charge in particular.
Yeah, I'm over the moon about it. I bought my season ticket package before I knew I was coming back on local radio, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to keep it anyway. Doesn't matter if I'm going to have a media pass that can get me into the games. I'm still going to support this team. I'm going to bring all the friends and the family out. It's great to have NHL hockey in Salt Lake City. And you mentioned Calgary, and we've had the Grizzlies, which have been a great semi-pro and IHL team for a long time. And there's another Calgary Flames link that I know you're well aware of. In this most recent NHL draft, and Iginla comes off the board to the Utah Hockey Club. Tija Ginla, and he's a young player, and they're going to stash him and develop him. And it's another question similar to my last one. How long does it take before we see that man skating on NHL ice?
Oh, I don't think it's going to be very long. I'll be really excited to watch him this year. Hopefully he'll make Canada's World Junior team. That would be really positive for him. He's playing in a tremendous league right now, the Western Hockey League and Major Junior Hockey. I've obviously known Jerome since he was a kid playing for the Kamloops Blaze. I'll never forget the Memorial Cup. It was like it was yesterday in 1994 in Laval, Quebec. That was really Jerome's coming out party in 1994 as a junior player. And then obviously he gets drafted by Dallas and gets traded in one of the biggest trades at that time for a legendary Hall of Fame player, Joe Nieuwendyk, and he goes back to Alberta, and Jerome becomes a great player. But no, I think the younger version of Jerome is not that far down the road. I thought it was a really good pick. I know Montreal was very interested in that player as well, so I think he did really, really well. And he's going to be a very good player for a long time. Just like I know Josh Stone just got sent down, OC. Josh Stone's going to be a real good player there in Utah as well. This is part of the bumpy road for a lot of these kids. There are not a lot of kids under 21 years of age that are really capable of playing in the National Hockey League. It's just too arduous.
All right, last thing before I let you go, and it harkens back to when you were doing games and you were broadcasting. I dabble in a little play-by-play myself, and I've watched a lot of hockey. I've watched a lot of baseball. I've watched a lot of basketball, and I was a football player. So football, I'm like, I could call any football game you want me on. Watching Doc Emmerich and you and those crews try to call hockey games, I'm like, I don't think I can do that. It's so fast. A lot of the time, the names are hard to like. It is such a craft to call a hockey game, and I don't even know if there's a good question here, but I'm just amazed by the ones who do it well. The study must be an absolute incredible task to try and get yourself ready to call an NHL level hockey game and to do so well. It's amazing.
And what an amazing honor I had to work with the great Doc Emmerich for 16 years at the national level. So grateful. We still stay in touch. Doc lives most of the year in Michigan, just outside of the Canadian border. And then he goes down to Florida. He's a huge Pittsburgh Pirates fan, so he goes down to Bradenton, Florida for most of the winter. And I think he gets pretty involved in it, actually. But I've worked with a lot of different partners, both at the Olympics and in the National Hockey League, and hard to find a better partner than the legendary Mike Doc Emmerich. And, I don't know, but we used to have this tradition. Doc and I would meet at the rink in the morning for practice, and then we'd meet in the afternoon and probably around 2:30, 3 o'clock, and we'd work on our notes, and we talk to each other and try to figure out the game before the game started. So, OC, it was a ton of fun, but you're asking this question is bringing up so many awesome memories for me. I never had a bad day when I worked with Doc Emmerich. I never had one bad day.
Well, I don't think you guys ever called a bad game together either. Just an absolute powerhouse crew. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you joining me on the show today. We got your phone number now, so, Pierre, I'm going to be bugging you to come on repeatedly and to keep giving us this kind of NHL insight.
You know what, OC, this has been an amazing honor and privilege, and I'm a big fan of what they're doing there. You know, I've known Billy a long time. I think Billy Armstrong's going to do a real good job there. And I can just tell the fans there, I have never met Mr. Smith, but I've watched him and I see what he's doing there. You guys are in good hands. You got a lot of really good stuff going on there. It's really exciting for the National Hockey League. It truly is.
Pierre, thanks for your time. Appreciate you.
Anytime, OC.
Pierre McGuire, like I said when we started this conversation, he has done it all. Player, coach, executive, analyst, broadcaster, insider, all of those titles fit Pierre McGuire, one of the absolute great minds in and around NHL hockey. We are very, very lucky to have had him on the air for that conversation. And look, we'll unpack some of what he said about timelines for not only this team, for the hockey culture in Salt Lake City. He's optimistic. The Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700. All right, big thanks to Clearwater Distilling for giving us our NHL Insider, Pierre McGuire today. Shout out JSB, by the way. Julie Stewart-Binks hooking that up because she herself couldn't stop by on the show. We're going to have to send her some cookies or something. What's a very Utah thing? Send her a bottle of fry sauce? Something like that?
Cookies to dip in fry? No, I'm sorry.
That's
not
perfect.
a Utah thing.
Do any of those
We'll
cookies,
tell
do any of those
JSB
cookie
that we
places-
dip them in fry sauce just as a prank. How about we do that?
Do any of those cookie places have like a
fry sauce
sauce recipe? They should.
If they're listening, they're making one right now.
Or
I'm sure.
or just ranch dressing, whatever. Look, I'm gonna be really quick here because I want to stay on clock. We got the Zachariah hour starting in just a couple of minutes here, but we have found the most bizarre and hilarious connection between a sport you like, between a sports figure that you probably like, and the fans, the lunatic fans that tried to rip the ball out of Mookie Betts' glove at the World Series last night. We have some sound. We're going to give it to you on the other side, all right? James, I want you to – I just gave James like 10 seconds notice to try and pull this because I saw the connection during the break, and this is absolutely fascinating and incredible. So that's how we're going to start hour number 3. Sports are so bizarre sometimes. Before we get to hour number 3, quick reminder to all of you that might be in the market for a new vehicle, and you're probably looking at the weather starting to cool off, snow and rain and mud and all that's going to be part of your life, and you're thinking, you know what, I should probably upgrade and make sure that I have 4-wheel drive. Well, the Ineos Grenadier has full-time 4-wheel drive, available locking differentials. It is an overbuilt, over-engineered, highly capable and functional SUV that also happens to have that luxury look, especially from the outside. Just a beautiful, beautiful machine. Ineos Grenadiers are available for you to test drive out at the Warner dealership, 2400 South, 5600 West in West Valley. Tell them that OC sent you when you go out there and you schedule that test drive. And I'm telling you, it's a head turner. People are going to stop you at stoplights and ask you how long you've had it, where you got it from. But as they do that, I want you to take this thing out into the mountains and really test its capabilities because these things can flat out drive. Ineos Grenadier. WarnerIneosGrenadier.com. Check out the full selection. All right. I've got some phenomenal sound for you coming in 3 minutes as we start the Zachariah Hour on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700. Hour 3 on a Wednesday. We're actually going to have Brennan Smith and Derek Parra from the Utah Olympic Legacy Foundation. They're going to join us in the studio in about 25 minutes. Looking forward to that. My guy Zachariah every Wednesday spends an hour with us to finish off the show. He joins us now. Zachariah, what's up?
I don't think my microphone is working.
It's working. I hear you.
All right, but does it sound a lot worse than it usually does? Because it says on my little thing that it's not with the Rotocast.
I mean, I can hear you, and in general, you sound terrible. So, yeah, it's fine.
All right, well, first of all, let me get a bunch of stuff off my chest. Number one,
here we go.
This segment should have. This segment should have.
By the way, Zachariah has adopted the airing of grievances as like his opening thing. He just likes to air them out. Go ahead.
Yeah, he knows what we do on the show.
No. Okay, look. First of all, this segment should already be sponsored. I've contacted gyms. I need to do a better job of contacting these gyms to get this show sponsored, because my hour, it should be the beginning of getting it off my chest, like you do when you're lifting weights. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So getting it off my chest. Whoever that wonderful guy was, that hockey guy, the McGuire guy, I listened to that whole thing. Okay, you might have gained his number. You've lost mine. I am now officially the Rodney Dangerfield of ESPN 700. If my hour does not starting at noon, I will be unavailable to you. I'm just going to let you know that right now.
Good.
And
you've known me long enough. Hold on. You've known me long enough. We did radio together for the first time all the way back in 2013. And back then I was terrible at staying on clock. So you know that's just something that I'm still going to do.
No, I know. It's fine. I'm mainly joking. Also, around halftime, so about 1:30 your time, I usually like to tap out. But don't worry, you got a sponsor coming in, so I don't have to pull an Anthony Richardson. Anyways, that's pretty much all I got. I would love to get into total depth. Thank you. I would love to get in total depth, by the way, about this whole Yankees foul ball situation.
Okay, we're going to watch this. You might not know about this connection. You probably do, because if there's one person who knows more about Obscure Sports Connection than I do, it's my guy Zachariah. But for folks who are just listening right now, and you are watching and you saw the fan interference where these Yahoo Yankee fans decided to try and rip the foul ball out of Mookie Betts' glove, and you saw that they got kicked out, but they're going to be back in the building tonight, you maybe didn't know that these guys have a strange connection to a future NFL Hall of Famer. Listen to this.
What we're seeing here. This is actually the first time I'm seeing this live. Okay. And here's a little fun fact. That guy right there grabbing Mookie Betts' glove
Don't tell me you know
was
him.
my friend in college.
Gronk, stop it right now.
He was on the ice hockey team, the club Arizona Wildcats team, ice hockey team. And let me tell you, the whole hockey team, they were absolute maniacs. They were undescribable, just how wild these guys, animals, yes, how wild these guys were. Him doing that represents him very well. I mean, he is all in for his teams. He is all in for the Yankees. I remember him talking about the Yankees all the time, how he loves them so much. And that describes him perfectly, just doing whatever it takes to help his team out. But he's a beauty.
Okay,
he is a beauty.
Okay,
and I just want to say congratulations.
Congratulations!
For shining when your moment came.
So obviously that is the voice of Rob Gronkowski. Gronk on Kay Adams' show, Up and Adams, and he reveals for the world
we lost Zachariah
that he knows the guy. He knows this dude. And was apparently a club hockey player at the University of Arizona back in the day. Zachariah, Gronk was friends with this guy. And if Gronk says that you were a maniac in college, you had to have been borderline dysfunctional, because Gronk himself was a maniac in college. What a wild connection between this fan and Rob Gronkowski.
Well, forgive me and the technology. I don't know whether or not to blame me or to blame James, so I don't want to blame anybody. But anytime you point a finger, there's four looking back at you or something like that. Anyways, I didn't hear the clip at all. So basically what you're saying is that Gronk was friends with these two maniacs and says that they were maniacs in college?
Okay, so Gronk went on Kay Adams' show, and he said, hey, this is the first time I'm seeing this. I know that guy. We were friends in college. So
he didn't He didn't watch it live?
And then this is the best part. He said he congratulated the guy. He
Yes.
said, way to shine. When you have your moment, congratulations on shining in that moment.
And Kay Adams, I love her. Congratulations!
Yes. She's like, what are you doing congratulating this guy? So
That was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, what I've seen, OC, is very much like forgive me. It is a voting year. So oftentimes
Careful.
I go to politics.
Careful.
I don't actually. No, I don't get into the depths of it. But much like how the world is like, everybody's saying it's going to be a toss-up election. So all I'm saying is what I've seen with this reaction is pretty rare. Normally you see one side or the other pile on to the other side. What I have seen from this is just as much equally celebrating those guys as completely ripping into those guys. And that's usually shocking. Like, OC, you can put up any poll. You're probably not going to get 50-50.
Look.
And in this instance, that's really what I've seen. I've seen these guys are scumbags. You can't interfere with the game. They should be banned from all the parks for the rest of time. They're horrible. And then I've seen Yankees fans going, hey, we didn't win a game. We didn't have a lead before they did that. Then we did after that. And yeah, they defended their turf and they did what I would have done. Like, I've literally seen, OC, a split reaction from that. What have you gotten on your side?
Gronk is the first person I have seen defend this behavior in any way. Like, I have not seen anything praising this. Although,
I have from Yankees fans.
Well,
from Yankees fans, OC.
So that's actually hilarious because I could see Yankee fans of all people being like, "Well, yeah, he's the anti-Steve Bartman because that cursed the Cubs, and this is now the rallying cry. This is the rally cap. You try to rip a ball out of Mookie Betts' glove, and that's when the series starts to turn around for you."
And yeah, sure, despicable people celebrating it, not a big deal. That's not a big deal, Zachariah.
James is a Red Sox fan, in case you're wondering.
Oh, well,
is it not obvious?
James has that traditional mix of Red Sox, Colts.
Yes.
Who else? Red Sox, Colts, Jazz.
Go Jazz. Let's go. Utah Hockey Club now.
And Ohio State.
Go Club.
And Ohio State. You are
it's very traditional.
You are the worst.
He at least has an excuse for that. I've been born and raised in the Bay Area, so I should be like a Raiders, A's, Warriors fan or whatever. Like, I should be very traditional. I'm assuming you have a little bit better of an excuse. But I'm a Suns, Dolphins,
you're preaching
Suns,
to the
Dolphins,
choir, OC.
A's fan. So yeah.
You
so
guys are both.
I'm not going to touch him on that.
Congratulations to both of you on being complete morons.
By the way, shout out to Porter Larson, who's also in our club. Virginia Tech Hokies fan.
Yeah.
Knicks and Mets fan.
It makes no sense. He's from rural Utah.
Yes.
And he's like, oh, you know what I love? The Mets. What? That makes no sense at all. You guys make no sense.
Well, what about you? You're from Minnesota.
I have logical connections to all the teams that I like. Okay, Minnesota went to a lot of Twins games when I was a kid, so I'm a Twins fan. They've been my baseball team and will remain so until the Utah Cutthroats show up or whatever we end up calling the Utah baseball team. All right, I was a San Francisco 49ers fan because my grandparents, when I was young, lived in the Bay Area. My grandma especially was a huge 49ers fan, and she would take me to 49ers training camp. She would watch 49ers games with me. She would buy me 49ers gear when I was like 4 years old. And the same thing is true when the San Jose Sharks showed up as an expansion team in San Jose, California, in the Bay Area. My grandma bought me a bunch of Sharks stuff and took me to Sharks events, and I became a Sharks fan because of that. Because when I was young in Minnesota, the Minnesota North Stars moved to Dallas and tore the hearts out of every young hockey fan. So I have good reason for all of my fandom. I will not accept a slander from either of you guys who are just manufacturing your loyalties for no reason.
That's okay. Hey, I have a reason. All those teams were on TV a lot, and I didn't have a favorite team in those sports, and I gravitated towards them.
The only one where I suffered the same thing was the New York Knicks. I liked.
Yeah. See, hey, Zachariah. Last week he was trolling me because I wore the great Reggie Miller's jersey, to the studio last Friday, and he was telling me about his weird NBA fandom.
Yeah.
So,
but again, why are you wearing a Reggie Miller jersey?
Because I'm a big Reggie Miller fan.
But you're not a Pacers fan.
No, but I love Reggie Miller.
Yeah, James, I want to get your back because you and I are in similar positions here. I can't really get your back on loving a guy but not loving the team. Look, in my defense, none of my teams have any titles. The A's won one when I was 6. The Suns have the Suns literally never won one, and the Dolphins haven't won anything since before I was born. So you can't call me a front runner. And I was a Niners fan like OC, but then they traded literally the Jesus Christ of not just football, but of all of sports, and Joe Montana. Don't tell me that Brady is the GOAT. Joe Montana is. They traded Joe Montana, and it broke my heart. And this was before the internet, so I got the news from a Sports Illustrated, and the Dolphins were my AFC team. I like the colors, and I like Dan Marino, so I've been a Fins fan ever since. And then with the Suns, Charles Barkley, I was a basketball player, and I was not athletic. And that's what Charles Barkley was when he was on the Suns. So I learned how to play basketball without being able to jump and be athletic and get to a high level. So that's why I'm a Suns fan. But again, no titles over here. So I don't want to hear any flack on my end.
Title, right? The A's won when you were 6.
Yes, in 1989. Yes.
We've spent too much time talking about you guys making poor decisions and me actually
all right,
making
let's get back to these maniacs.
Well, just these maniacs are a good jumping off point for a World Series that has been absolutely phenomenal to watch. Freddie Freeman, 4 games, 4 home runs.
Oh man.
And last night we all got to watch a literal childhood sports dream come true. And I guess we probably see this more often than we really acknowledge in pro sports, but Anthony Volpe hit a grand slam that sparked his team and kept them from being eliminated from the World Series. This is a guy who grew up, as we're talking about our fandom from childhood, this is a guy who grew up rooting for the Yankees and particularly for Derek Jeter, and now he's playing the same position for the Yankees and hit a grand slam in the World Series. This is so incredible, and this is why people are romantic about sports and about baseball in particular.
Yeah, back to Freddie Freeman just for a second. Number one, you texted me, and just so you know, just to pull the curtain a little back, James knows I love to do that when it comes to this industry. I like to show the listeners a little bit of what goes on behind the scenes. You and I are on a text thread between me, you, and Zoe. And so when I got the text message that said, Freddie Freeman is a monster or whatever, I figured it was on that thread and that was from Zoe because Zoe's a Dodgers fan. So I kind of dismissed it. And then I was looking later and I was like, oh, this is straight from OC. And I was like, OC, you're watching baseball. And you were like, playoffs only. And I said, hey, baby steps, like from the great movie, What About Bob? I was just happy that you were watching baseball. But do you know that he's now hit a home run in 4 consecutive World Series games? Because it goes back to when he was in the World Series with the Braves. That dude is blacked out. I can't imagine that there's another person on the planet, let alone athlete, that I would rather be right now than Freddie Freeman. That guy is fantastic, impossible to hate, even if you hate the Dodgers. But going back to what you're saying, yes, you get a hometown kid who had a, by the way, you ever want to feel old, OC? Because I know even though you're 100 years older than me, we're the same age. There's a picture of Volpe at the 2009 World Series Yankees parade. I'm like, I was 8 years out of high school then. And you're an infant, and now you're grown and hitting a grand slam in the World Series. Fantastic story.
Yeah, 2009, he's a 8-year-old kid, and now he's playing for the Yankees. So that was just
that hurts. That hurts.
It was amazing to watch. There's not a good transition point here, so I want to just use this time to talk about something that's been a theme on the show today, and it's been a theme on the show for the last 4 weeks, and you've been joining us as we've lamented the ineptitude of Utah football, especially the offense for Utah football. And look, Mike Bajakian, in this bye week, he's got 10 days to try and create more points. He's got 10 days to try and figure out which quarterback he's going with as his starter and which of the offensive weapons that are still healthy he's going to deploy to try and beat. I think right now the team that is playing best in the Big 12 Conference, a top 10 team, an undefeated team in your in-state rival, BYU. He's got to figure this out in the next 10 days. And right now he's the interim offensive coordinator at Utah. In order to pull the interim tag, and in order for this guy to have proved to the coaching staff around him, to the university, to the fan base, to everyone that he deserves to be the full-time offensive coordinator at Utah, how many points per game does this team need to average over the next 4, and how many do they need to score against BYU? I put the poll question out there at Real OC Sports if you haven't already responded. And Zachariah, I present the question to you. I put 21 to 24, which is the range they're in right now. They're scoring just under 23 points a game, which is good for 15th out of 16 teams in the Big 12 Conference. If he improves at a field goal plus, that's 25 to 29 points. If he gives you an extra touchdown per game, 30 to 33 points. And if he gives you an extra 10 points a game, 34-plus points per game, now you're in the top 3 in the Big 12 Conference. But if you're pulling the interim tag off a guy who has not had a ton of success as a play caller in his previous postings, how much do you need to see from him over these next 4 games?
I'm going to very much measure this question. As you know, from knowing me over the decade plus, I do not often think before I speak. I very much, while you were asking the question, thought before I spoke. Now, I would like to have a conversation with you off the air because I think you and I could have a riveting conversation. I've got a multitude of questions about what's going on in Utah that I'm not going to bring up here because I don't want to ruffle any feathers with James or any of the higher-ups over there at ESPN 700. I saw your poll, and I answered it, and I said the highest one, which is probably undoable. We're talking about a team that has not seen 20, and I voted for over 30. But something's up there. Like, for me going into the season, talking about how good the coaching staff and that Ludwig was 3rd overall in PFF for total offensive coordinators, and now he's stepping down, and now nothing changed with the change. And, like, I don't know what's going on there, but something's going on there. So for me, the reason why I answered it the most, even though I think it's the hardest to attain, is because it would need to take something shocking for him to keep that spot. Is that a good enough, careful enough answer?
No, I like that. I like that when you think before you speak. It's a rare occasion, like you said. So
1 out of 10 times.
Let me ask you this, because this has been the response from several people who have weighed in and said, I don't know that with this talent, it's possible to expect 30 points a game. Now, I push back pretty hard on that because even though you lost Money Parks for the season, unfortunately, against Houston, and even though you have been decimated by injury, especially at the quarterback position with the whole Cam Rising situation, this is a team that I still believe absolutely has the horses. Like, I look at what you've got offensively. Jalen Glover was promising in Houston when he got more chances, and I think he's played his way back and practiced his way, I should say, back into the good graces of the coaching staff. I think Mekhi Bernard is an absolute monster. I think Brant Keithy has been incredibly consistent, and you can't question him. Dorian Singer, you got to get that guy into the end zone. You got to do it right now. I'm looking at it, and I'm saying that the talent is there. Is it going to be tough against BYU and Colorado and Iowa State? Yeah, of course. Those are the best teams in the conference right now. But is this Utah team lacking for talent? I don't think so.
No, yeah, I totally agree. Look, we went into this thinking that this would be one of the most high-flying offenses in the history of the state of Utah. Now, granted, was that assuming that Money Parks would be quote-unquote reduced down to your second receiver, or that Cam Rising was going to be healthy? I mean, yeah, obviously, but there's still a ton of talent at the tight end position. You still got Singer. You still got Mekhi. I mean, there's still tons of places where you can go and make it work. But, I mean, the big question is, who's going to be the quarterback that does that? And, I mean, ultimately, I don't know if that's why Coach Ludd hung it up. And that's why he said, look, I got nothing to work with here. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to figure out the game plan. I don't know what to do here because I can't put the right pieces in place or whatever. But somebody's got to figure it out. And, again, I picked that because if somebody can pick that out, OC, then, yes, they deserve the full-time position.
All right. That's fair. I like that. Okay. We're going to – I only have a couple more minutes here before we get to this this visit from former Olympian Derek Parra, and from folks from the Olympic Legacy Foundation here. They're allegedly coming in studio. James, I don't know if you can peek out there and if they're already in the building. Oh, they're in the building? All right. Zachariah, an epic and terrible collapse by the Utah Hockey Club on Monday night. They gave up 4 goals in the span of 5 minutes of regulation and 5 minutes of overtime to lose to the worst team in the NHL. Are we concerned by this at all?
You know, I am like you, much like you. I'm not a season ticket holder, and I have been to a few Shark games. I think I went to the second ever outside game when it was the Sharks and the Penguins in San Jose, and it was outside, and it was amazing and horribly freezing. And by the way, if any of your friends have never been to a hockey game and you take them, please tell them to layer up because it is so cold inside any hockey arena. And if they happen to get a media pass, make sure they do not go in the locker room because the hockey locker room, and I've smelled a lot of locker rooms, is the worst smelling locker room of all time. Your good friend Rick Tittle, I'm sure you remember him. He warned me about it, and there was not enough warnings you could have given me for that stench. Am I worried about it? No, because as I'm trying to get more ingratiated with hockey, I'm finding it to be a more volatile sport than other sports. I know with like baseball especially, right? You got a $162. Basketball, you got 82. Hockey, you got 82. So there's ups and downs to the season. And so, you know, coaches and players will tell you never let your highs get too highs or your lows get too lows. So when they started off like gangbusters, I wasn't immediately super high about the Utah Hockey Club. And now that they're dipping off a little bit, I'm not getting low on it either. I think it's a volatile sport. It's not like football where you really spend a week judging each game. So you're asking me if I'm worried. I'd put my worry level at a 5.
A 5 out of 10.
Yeah, of concern. You asked me. You asked me for my asterisks of concern, and I'm doing a 5 out of 10. Me and James had a different scale.
Yeah.
So if we were doing James and I's scale, it would be a quarter of an asterisk of concern.
All right. Maybe we could get Zachariah to hang around for the end of the show. Maybe not.
I got you, bud.
Okay, but up next, Brendan Smith, Derek Parra from the Utah Olympic Legacy Foundation are joining us in studio on the Sean O'Connell Show. Don't go anywhere. It's ESPN 700.
Nice there by Walker Kessler to get the break started.
That's his 9th swat of the season. How about he runs? And Keontae awards the big man.
There's a highlight for you from Walker Kessler blocking in a transition dunk. But it was another loss for the Utah Jazz. Sound courtesy of SEG Media. That was Craig Bolerjack on the call, as if I needed to tell you that, the iconic voice of so many Utah Jazz broadcasts. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700. Quick reminder, I'm going to have tickets to give away. USA Women's Hockey taking on Canada in the rivalry series happening at the Maverick Center November 8th. I got a pair of tickets to give away in our next segment, which will close out the show. Joining us right now in studio from the Utah Olympic Legacy Foundation, Brendan Smith, Derek Parra. Brendan, when you're walking around, you're hanging out with an Olympic gold medalist, and I got to introduce him as an Olympic gold medalist, right? I need something of equal import and of equal that will impress people equally as much about you. What do I say?
Sean, I don't know, man. I don't think I can measure up to that. I got a purple guitar. That's fun. But
I don't have a guitar.
I don't think I have anything that's quite as impressive as the guy to my left. So
purple guitarist and Olympic gold medalist in the studio with us. I say that facetiously, but from the Utah Olympic Legacy Foundation, you guys just received a big award.
Yeah, we're so stoked, man. Visit Salt Lake gave us the Community Impact Award just to recognize the impact we have on youth sports in Utah. Everything across our 3 venues, Utah Olympic Oval, Utah Olympic Park, and Soldier Hollow, how we get kids involved in winter sport and get them into active lifestyles.
And Derek, you're still heavily involved in not only this foundation, but in developing the infrastructure for those youth sports.
Yes, I'm a sport director at the Utah Olympic Oval, and so I've been in the building since it was put up back before the 02 games, and have gone from a skater to coaching youth development, and now organizing as administrator. All of our youth programs, making sure we're teaching the right things, sport for life philosophies, and long-term athlete development philosophies.
How often are you still on skates?
I play hockey, actually, in a rec league a few times a week. Yeah, I love it. It's easy because I can sprint for about 3 or 4 seconds, grab the puck, flush it out, and then go back and sit down. Not the greatest with stick handling, but I can get to the puck pretty fast.
Yeah, well, you got at least one of those component parts of being a great hockey player. I remember leading up to, I don't know if it was leading up to the Olympic Games in Salt Lake City. I don't know if it was after the Olympic Games, but you probably know who it was. If it was Sports Illustrated, or if it was, there was a piece about how insane and legendary your workouts were. In preparing for that. And forgive me if this is something you've had to talk about way too many times, but like you would just do these, like, you'd just be vertical jumping all day, just building the quad strength and stuff like that. How close to that level of workout are you? You're still in great shape. How close to that level of workout are you still doing now that you're no longer an Olympian?
Not anywhere close.
No.
My exercise routine is pretty much playing hockey a few times a week.
Okay.
In the summer, I actually do a mountain bike ride with Corner County High School as a volunteer rider.
Nice.
And I try to get on the ice once in a while with the clubs, just to kind of see how things are going, make sure the coaches are teaching the right thing. But we also have education groups that are coming in. I'll step on the ice sometimes with them to see how the vibe is out there with the kids coming in for the first time trying the ice. But we have great programs at all of our venues, so I'm very fortunate I get to go out and just see what's happening on the ice in real time and be able to kind of report back to the leaders, like, this is what's going on, this is what's great, we can work on this. And getting kids in and seeing that change in their eyes when they learn a new sport is pretty fun.
It's really we had Pierre McGuire, who's a big NHL guy, on the show earlier today, and I asked him this. We have a hockey club now. We have an NHL hockey club, and we haven't had really like the biggest hockey culture, not compared to places like Minnesota, Boston, all the Canadian cities that are represented in the NHL. But we now have the facilities, more facilities going up. We now have an NHL team that offers that sort of aspirational thing for young athletes. And you guys are part of all of this, as the growth opportunities are now there more than ever through the Utah Olympic Legacy Foundation, through Smith Entertainment Group. And Brandon, like, what is coming for Utah youth sports on the ice and other places?
I think that's the best thing about this, OC, is we talk about the Oval and Park specifically. Now we have Utah Hockey Club training on our ice. They're training at the same time in the morning as U.S. speed skating. We're high performance by day. Those athletes feed off of each other. It's, everybody's chasing peaks. Everybody's trying to be the best they can possibly be. And you can see speed skating on the oval on the 400-meter fastest ice on earth. We have 10 of 11 records all time, world records. We have hockey club on one of our inner sheets. And you can see kids and people come in and watch both of those things. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make that perpetual. So we have the highest highs. And then as kind of the day develops and we get into the evening, we have all those learn to skate classes, learn to play hockey, learn to curl, learn to speed skate. And we have that example from beginning till midnight, almost every single night, of the highest of the highs and then people that are just taking their first steps on the ice.
And now the Olympics are coming back to Salt Lake City.
Yes, they are.
How amazing is this?
I'm so happy that in my lifetime it's coming back to that. Where for me it was a big point, focal point in my life. But knowing the kids that are here now and what they were thinking when the announcement came out that the games would be back here in Utah, and just imagining what went through their minds, because I know what went through my mind when I realized the games were here in my home country all those years ago.
I was a senior in high school the last time they came, but I had this sobering thought, humbling thought. I'm like, oh, they're coming back. Amazing. I'm going to be 50 years old when that happens. So but it's really cool to see that it's happening again, that we'll have an opportunity to really host the international community and to see all these events. And I got to believe there are kids listening now, there are kids involved in your programs right now that when we get there 10 years from now are going to be Olympic competitors. Is that the point kind of what the foundation's up to?
Yeah, I think that's the point, OC, is looking at it. It's like we say, it's better to stay ready than get ready. And we have all these venues and we're running them every day and we have programs, again, from morning till night. And that's always the goal. Like, we want to encourage these kids to chase the highest possible aspiration they can chase. But that's not the total point of everything we're doing. We're just trying to get kids involved. And if you're trying to make the Olympics and that's what you want to chase and what you want to aspire to, we're there for you. If you want to just come and hang out and skate a little bit and learn a new skill, we got you for that too. And I think that's the special sauce of why our Olympic venues are still thriving, 20 more years later and then 10 years before the next one is we're doing it every day. We're living that Olympic legacy, and I can see that reflected back in our venues. So.
And it's not the norm, right, where a place hosts an Olympic Games and then those facilities are continually used and are improved and are maintained and are part of the community. It doesn't happen in a lot of these Olympic cities. I've seen too many pictures of abandoned facilities and stadiums and bobsled tracks and whatever else, where it's just like, wow. They built all that up, used it for 3 weeks, and it's over, but not here in Salt Lake.
Yeah, it's really sad to see, and it's really hats off to the people who had the vision way back when of what this place could look like and how it could serve the communities around us. And yeah, to be able to, whether you're a figure skater here at the Oval or a hockey player or a ski jumper up at the park, these venues were built for the games. They're world class, and you're getting great coaching as well from the coaches that we have now hired in our staffs to facilitate that. And not only is there a dream, I think, to go to the games, if that's what you're aspiring to, but in my opinion, everything I learned in my life came through sports. Chasing that dream I had, and it was a long dream, and in a very small percentage, as you know, make the Olympic team or make it to the top of the podium. But everything I learned from the people around me, the communities that I was in, the camaraderie of the teammates around me, the lessons learned, both through failure and success, have shaped me as a person. And I think from my perspective as an administrator, that's the opportunity I like to have for the kids that are out in our programs now in our facilities, is they get to meet these kids from other places, try something different, find a new passion, develop relationships, learn about themselves, and become productive citizens in our state.
So if I'm driving around right now listening to this conversation, and I'm like, you know what, I got kids I want to get off the iPad. I myself want to go out there and try curling out. I've watched it on TV, and it looks like it's fun. What's the best way for people to get involved, to find a program, just to come out and try things?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find all our info, all our schedules, all our programs, UtahOlympicLegacy.org. And we've got scholarships available for kids, too, to get into the programs. It's not always the cheapest thing to get into hockey or some of these ice sports. And we just want everybody to be able to come out and experience these venues. And we're not just for that Olympic level. We're for everybody, and we want to see you out there.
How many times do people, when they see you out there on skates, be like, hey, let's race? I want to see if I can beat the Olympian.
Most people, I want to say they think I was a lot taller, and they don't really say that, race me. But I was like, oh, hey, you're that guy on the banner outside, and we chat up a little bit. But I used to get on the bike more. If I'd be on a bike ride out in the road somewhere, someone come up beside me and take a double take at me, and they'd pick up their pace, and then I'd pick up my pace, and next thing you know, it's a race. That happened a lot. But as Brendan said, that we've got great programs. We have another session starting November 12th of our Learn to Skate program, which the Oval is our flagship program. That's where we learn to skate, to try the different sports in skating. There's always sessions going on, yearly programs. So, yeah, check out our website. There's a lot of opportunities out there for kids. And we also serve serve children as well through our parks programs and our school programs. We have donors that donate to help kids have a chance to get out on the ice and try sports for the first time.
Before I let you go, I have to ask, because every Olympian we've had as guests on the show has a different answer. Where are the Olympic medals? Where do you have them?
We were just talking about that. Mine are wrapped in an American flag that I was given by a spectator in the crowd after my silver medal in 2002. And it's wrapped in a flag inside a Ziploc bag from 2002, inside of a popcorn bag that I had gotten that fits kind of the shape of it. And they're in a dresser in my bedroom, just kind of there.
What is it with Olympic medalists and throwing these things in a sock drawer?
They're heavy. Have you ever worn one of those things around your neck? They are heavy. I would have neck problems when I get older.
Derek,
I keep wearing those things.
I never won an Olympic gold medal, so I didn't get to wear one around my neck. But it's so funny because, James, we've had 3 or 4 Olympians, and that is too often the answer. I would never leave the thing at home. I'd be just flaunting it in everyone's face all the time. Just be like, yes, hello, I'm Sean. This is my Olympic gold medal. No, you can't touch it. The only person, Clarissa Shields, who's a 2-time Olympic gold medal boxer in the Summer Olympics, is involved with some of the fighting stuff I do. And she had them in her purse. And I was just like, what do you do with your medals? And she unzipped her purse. She's like, right there. I was like, oh, that's amazing.
That's hilarious.
And they're heavy, so not super convenient to be carrying those things around. But
I wouldn't argue with her because she'd probably punch you, right?
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to upset someone like that. Well, congrats on the award. Thank you for stopping by today. Thank you for giving us the information. Brandon Smith, Derek Parra from the Utah Olympic Legacy Foundation. What's the website again for anyone who wants to be involved?
UtahOlympicLegacy.org.
Check it out, and let's all celebrate for the next 10 years. Build up some of this infrastructure. Let's get some of these Utah kids involved in the next Olympic Games.
Yeah, tell them Derek sent you.
Tell them Derek sent you. Thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll give away some tickets. Little topical trivia next to close out the show. It is the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700. Well, welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700. Is my guy Zachariah still with us? Is he still hanging out? Oh, yes. You are.
Yeah, I'm here.
I'm
here. It's the Zachariah hour that starts late and then has a halftime. Yeah, so it's the Zachariah 15 minutes here on ESPN 700.
It's like going to an NHL hockey game. All right, there's 20 minutes on, then there's 20 minutes off, and there's 20 minutes on again. All right, that's what we're doing here.
What's your topical trivia? Get to the nooks and crannies that you got to get to, because I still got stuff to get off my chest.
I love that. Okay, 877-353-0700. We got some Jersey Mike's free sub cards. We have 2 tickets to U.S. women's hockey versus Canada in the rivalry series coming up November 8th at the Maverick Center. And because I found it to be so silly, the fan that interfered with Mookie Betts' glove in the World Series last night played what sport at the University of Arizona? 877-353-0700. If you can answer that question, we will give you some tickets and some free Subway cards, some Jersey Mike's sub cards. All right, Zachariah, what do you need to get off your chest?
Too easy. First of all,
don't give the answer. Don't give the answer. Don't give the answer. People have to. That's the whole point of topical trivia. They have to have been listening.
This is the 15th time that you've accused me of about to be giving away the answer. I've never given away the answer. I'm just saying that's too easy. If you were listening for probably half a second, then you should probably get the answer to that trivia. I'm guessing they're already flooding in right now.
But
I like to make it more obscure.
It has to be the right half a second, though, Zachariah.
That's right. You had to be listening at the correct half second. What do you need to get off your chest besides you don't like my questions?
James knows I like to make them a little bit more obscure. Number one. Okay, I feel like you are number one in all of the United States, maybe the world, in terms of statue talk. I remember you're doing a big thing about Coach Witt about stat. This Dwayne Wade, please tell me that you've talked about this Dwayne Wade statue. For the love of God, I haven't had the time to listen to you every second of every day, but tell me that you have covered this.
Yes, we talked about the horrible statue. Did you see? This was actually impressive. They had
so bad.
They had the sculptors of the statue address the media. The two is like two artists.
I saw them. Yeah, I thought it was
I thought it was like a joke. They sat down in front of the Miami Heat backdrop like they were coaches.
I thought it was AI. I thought it was AI. I was like, there's no way they have the makers of the statue sitting in a press conference.
And if I messed up that badly on someone's face, I wouldn't want to sit in front of the media.
Hey, Dwayne Wade, by the way, we've known this about Dwayne because he's had to address some things in his own personal life, and he's now part of the community, the ownership here in Salt Lake City, and he's had to address some complicated questions involving that. He is a gracious human being.
Oh, yeah.
Because everyone in the world was making fun of these artists, making fun of this statue, making fun of his face, and instead of him getting mad about it, instead of him doing like a Cristiano Ronaldo and being like, that ain't my face, figure it out.
That's not me.
He was just like, you know what? It's a great interpretation. Like, that man is a gracious human being. Whether you agree with him on everything in his life or not, he is a kind-spirited individual.
I will say this. I don't believe much in, different signs. I happen to be a Libra, which I believe is a balance beam. And I think OC would probably use 9,000 different words before he got to balanced when it comes to me. And I will say this about him. He has more patience and understanding than many human beings on the planet. And I applaud him for that. But in this instance, I am going to roast the bleep out of him, OC. He was a part of the process. It's terrible. Have you seen all the memes about him looking like Lawrence Fishburne?
Yeah. No, you know
OC, let's say that you were a 10 times better UFC fighter, and they made like a UFC fighting sort of training arena or whatever, and you were just like a god in UFC, and they put a statue out in front of you. If you had shown me a picture like that, and we were doing the equivalent, I would be like, OC, you need to do anything in your power to reverse that. It is horrible. I don't care about it. And he's right. He said, How many people have statues of themselves? Not many. That's me. I get it. Yeah, you can flex on that, but it's the worst statue of all time.
Well,
and there's been a lot of bad statues.
They're going to fix it. It's fine. He knows that. But also, if you watch the whole breakdown, like the memeing that was going on, if you watched when he actually was sitting there doing his thing with the artist, the clay version of that looked more like him than the bronze version ended up. So there was something.
It was I got you. It was the transition from clay to whatever, bronze.
What he signed off on was something that looked a lot more like Dwayne Wade. So, look, there's steps in the process. Yeah. And by the way, this is such a great indication of what social media is and what media is in general, is all of us who have absolutely no concept or no skill in sculpting. Everybody's just like, ha, those losers can't even make a photorealistic face of another human being. Dorks. When it's like, we can't do it either, you know?
Hey, I'm saying it with all due respect, OC, okay?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, it kind of reminds me when I was 18 years old and I was in France and I went to the Louvre and I was looking at the Mona Lisa and I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. I don't know how this thing is considered to be great or whatever. I'm not saying that. I cannot paint anything. Like if I tried to paint something, it would be the worst thing that you've ever seen in your entire life. So yeah, you're right. But here's my line of thinking, OC. There could have been a bunch of other people that were not deemed as quote unquote famous that could have made that statue a gazillion times better. It doesn't have to be me or you or anybody else that's criticizing it, but there are people that do that are good. And those people, to me, I will say this right now, it's my hot take for the day, they're not good at their job. That statue was crap.
Anytime I can get Zachariah and Spence Checketts talking to one another, I take that opportunity because the dynamic is hilarious to me. It makes me laugh every time because Zachariah is like secretly worried that Spence doesn't like him, and Spence,
he's avoided a lot of handoffs, OC.
And Spence,
when I fill in for you,
Spence is bewildered by the mere notion that he has somehow been made into the bad guy here. So I love it. The Drive with Spence Checketts is coming next. And he's here in studio with me, and Zachariah is joining remotely, as he always does, and that is magic waiting to happen.
I very much like Zachariah.
Yeah,
I don't know where this is coming from.
Yeah, it's his insecurities.
Zachariah,
okay.
You are loved. You are safe. Okay, I see you. I hear you.
I appreciate that. And when I saw you, you instantly gave me your number, and I texted you when OC was doing this nonsense about how it's normal for men without children to go to a Disney thing. You and I were completely aligned. I texted you on that. We even talked about maybe playing some golf or having some food together. All I'm saying is, if you put the numbers up, and James, we need a statistician. Tony Reality, famous for not Around the Horn or whatever. Yeah, Around the Horn. Famous from Around the Horn. He started off as a statistician for PTI. So what we need is a statistician in there. And if they put the numbers up of the amount of times that I've filled in for OC and the amount of times that you've done crosstalk with me, your numbers are going to look paltry, my friend. That's all I'm saying.
It sounds like you've had a couple of extra cups of coffee today.
No, that's just him, always. That's
really? No caffeine.
Zachariah is just, he wakes up like this.
I'm jealous.
I was born this way until he goes to bed.
Wow.
He is like an 18-month-old golden retriever.
Yes. At all times.
Just always.
Zachariah,
Spence,
my guarantee to you is next time you fill in, we're going to do an entire crosstalk, like 15-minute segment.
Beautiful.
Love it. I want 30 minutes, but I'll take 15. Okay. And just so you know, my father used to call me a light switch. He's like, basically, like, there is no dim. Like, when he's on, it's 100%. And then when he's out, he's completely out. And so that's just kind of how my whole life is.
But he is also a little bit dim. He just doesn't realize it.
Fair enough. You're not, I'm assuming you're talking about the Dwayne Wade statue.
Yes, that's what we were talking
about. Yes.
Yeah, I came in a little late. My question is, how did they green light that? Because somebody saw it, was like, we're going with it.
Dwayne Wayne, Spence, Dwayne Wayne did.
No, he did he looked,
it was a part of the entire process.
He saw what the expression was going to be. They had like the clay thing of his face, and he's like, yeah, that's great. And then the execution just was off, and it's fine. They'll fix it, but it was hilarious, and it has been memed appropriately,
yes, it has.
and it's fantastic.
Yes. OC, do you think they're really going to change it?
Yes, absolutely.
They have to. It's so bad.
Yes, they're going to change it.
My first thought was, who looked at it was like, nailed it. Yep. This is what we're going with.
You know what it looks like to me, and I said this on the air, whatever.
Nobody.
Monday. It looks like Kelsey Grammer. It looks like Frazier.
That's good. That's good.
And
It
I'm
does.
just like that. Who doesn't look anything like Dwayne Wade, by the way? So.
Did you ever see the? Was it Ashton Kutcher who did Punk'd and did the Beckham statue?
Yes.
Yeah. For a minute, I thought it was a joke.
Yes.
Like the Beckham Ashton Kutcher show.
That was a great bit
Yes,
that
it
he
was.
did. And
Yeah.
also, David Beckham was very kind about it.
Oh yeah, way too nice.
Cristiano Ronaldo, in real life, had a poorly executed statue
Yes.
done.
Yeah.
Like the Beckham
Terrible.
thing played itself out in real life.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, Cristiano Ronaldo, my buddy now, because he was at the last fights that I called.
You guys
Whatever,
get him
no
on the
big deal.
show. Get him on the show.
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
I'm
Nice.
sure.
I
I'm
like
sure
that.
Alonzo knows him somehow. He seems to know everybody.
Yeah. We'll
I'm
get him
sure
on the
he-
show. The only
they
reason
did
he hasn't
fix
come
the
on.
Ronaldo statue. They fixed that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is why they will fix the
They
Dwayne
will.
Wade statue.
I'm also wondering when the Jazz are going to put Dwayne Wade's statue out in front of the Delta Center.
You know what will happen is we'll get this Dwayne Wade statue. When they take it down from Miami, they'll just be like,
The-
oh, what are we going to
and
do with
they'll-
this thing? This thing costs us like $300,000 to make. We're not going
Duct
to
tape over the Heat and write Jazz.
We're not going to throw it away.
Or
And
Utah.
they'll ship it out here, and we'll just put it in Gilgal Gardens or whatever that weird place is over by Trolley.
Love it.
What's coming up on the drive, Spence?
So I'll tell you what may be coming up on the drive. We're not sure yet.
Uh-oh.
I got contact info for the dude who tried to rip Mookie Betts' glove off. The guy.
Gronk's friend.
Gronk's friend.
Yeah.
So I have a friend who played college hockey with him. And was like, do you want his number? I'm like, absolutely. So we're efforting.
You're friends with Gronk?
No, it's not Gronk.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll wait till you hear that. Do you know the guy's name? I got to tell you the guy's name because it's perfect. It's Austin Copabianco.
Yes.
Which
He's
I
a New
believe means
Yorker.
white head in my Italian language.
His family owns a restaurant supply company in New York. I mean, it's just like central casting.
It's perfect.
So we're not guaranteed to have this guy on, but when it was offered to me, I'm like, yes, send me his number.
Dude, you
We're going to
gotta-
reach out to him. But regular scheduled programming is college football, as you would expect this time of year. We got a little jazz, a little RSL. They screwed up last night. But what we do every day, a little college football, a little jazz, a little RSL, and maybe the dude who tried to rip Mookie Betts' glove off at Yankee Stadium last night.
I want that so desperately to be part of your show today. Can I steal 2 more minutes of your time?
Absolutely can.
To make you answer this question.
For sure.
Because I really want to know what you think about it. How many points does Mike Bajakian need to average as offensive play caller for Utah over the next 4 games in order to not be interim offensive coordinator, but to get the job permanently? 21-24, 25-29, 30-33, or 34+ points per game.
The magic number seems to be anything over 25, right? Because the D has held most everybody right there or beneath. I got to be honest, I don't think there's anything you can do to get the job because the more and more I talk to people, the more and more I feel like this is it for Kyle and it's going to be up to Morgan. And I don't think Morgan's going to hire Mike. I don't know. Good question, though. But anything over 25 would put Utah right where they kind of need to be this year. So that's my instant reaction.
All right. Love it. Stay tuned for the drive with Spence Checketts. Thank you to Zachariah, to Pierre McGuire, to Scott Mitchell, to Derek Parra, to Brennan for coming in. It was a great show today. Make sure you stay tuned. You might hear from the guy who tried to rip the ball out of Mookie Betts' glove on the drive with Spence Checketts. This is ESPN 700, Utah's #1 sports talk.